Good morning. Welcome in to Hurrdat Sports Radio, AM 590, ESPN Omaha, ESPN Tri-Cities. That's DB. I'm Ravi Lulla here on the Pillar Exterior stage. What's up, DB?
What is going on?
Oh, just hanging out here, looking at schedules.
Just hanging out. Do you like Nebraska's schedule?
We don't have to do this. I know you hate schedule talk.
No, I mean, I don't like schedule talk in terms of
Wins and losses
and trying to tell me how good a team is or isn't in the offseason.
Fair.
I think that's super irrelevent. As
we found out this year.
time and time and time again.
So Indiana wasn't an automatic dub?
So, and people will still inevitably do it. Oh, bad. I see.
We got 11 wins.
I think you start with home and aways and where the buys are. Those are the critical things.
That's relevant. Right? I don't mind how the home and away is set up.
Yeah, I do like the run early at home.
Yeah, so first you got neutral site and then 4 straight at home, which is nice. And then you basically go 2 on, 2 off.
Yeah,
which isn't terrible.
And you get your buys a little later this time,
which I like.
Yeah,
I like having the late bye weeks.
If I remember right, we're after UCLA.
I believe so. Yeah,
the 8th through the 22nd.
Yes.
That would be amazing if I remember that.
I'm double checking here.
Yeah, kid, do that for me. I just want to.
I'm doing my slow Google. Give me a minute.
I want to impress myself.
You do like impressing yourself.
Yeah, okay, you tell. You know what would be more impressive is if that was not on the Rockets and Golden State's channel last night. That would be.
I know. It took me a minute to get the camera set up today.
New pieces, new parts.
No, not everything was
in a different place
where it was supposed to be.
Yeah.
Getting it back together. So
who took it down the first time?
I have no idea.
Wasn't you?
No. Well, I took it down, but then there was stuff here last night, so I don't know who.
Is that why there's this great big wide open dance floor?
Yeah, this table was back over there.
Were they cutting a rug?
I don't know. They may have been.
I.e. your button up. What?
Say it looks like a rug. This isn't a button up. This is a pullover. It does have buttons, though, in your defense.
Oh.
You want me to button them all the way up?
Shoot.
It's warm. It's like 15 degrees outside, so I
think I saw 17 on my thermostat.
I'm going to want me to button it all the way up?
Because when...
This is going to be uncomfy for my neck. I'm not going to do that.
When the AC hit the skids this past summer, and I was riding right next to you, boy, was that a traumatic experience. Still can't believe how much those are.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I did mine a few years ago, and it's gotten even more expensive since then.
Paid that off in about 7 years.
Yeah. It's all right.
But anyway, so this newfangled thing this energy saver thing that they installed.
Yeah.
Has the outside inside temp, and it's very slick.
Mm-hmm.
And I learned what hold and set as and set to, like all the little things mean. So the only reason I know what the temp is every day is because it is posted. So shout out to me. I was today years old when I could tell you what the temp was, because I never trusted the one in my car.
No, I don't, because I'm in my garage, so it's not right when I get in.
Yeah.
And it takes a minute to adjust. I look at my app every morning so I know like what to wear. I look at the weather app.
You're totally your mom's child. That's nice. That's nice.
Yeah.
I'm glad she's had a positive effect on you.
Oh, any nice part about me, which I know there's not a lot.
Was totally your mom?
100%.
Yeah.
I think I get all the snarkiness from my dad, who's a great person.
I fight my mom's
niceness.
Yes.
Yeah. I think your mom and my mom are a lot alike.
I picked up her prescription the other day, and apparently she's a legend at that pharmacy.
Why is that?
Well, I kept, when you just think it should be harder to pick something up for somebody like that.
Yeah.
But it was not.
Yeah.
And she told me to give her a message, and I forgot it already.
The pharmacist a message?
No, the pharmacist.
Told to give your mom a message. I got
it. It was all I could do to remember the name of the thing.
Yeah.
And I kept sounding it out through the speaker, so the lady thought that was funny. And she goes, "Don't you talk for a living?" I was like, "Ooh, wow."
You're like, not about medicine, lady.
So I forgot to tell you that. So what is it about this? This
that says easy target?
Yes.
Yeah. I think it's because I don't know.
She said I think, and maybe some of it is me, but she just, although I do drive when I take my mom sometimes.
Yeah. So she's seen you.
Yeah. Don't you talk for a living?
here,
maybe it was because I'm a grown up actually trying to sound out the prescription. Maybe?
doing like the phonetics,
Yes,
hooked on phonics.
and we've talked about that just yesterday, I believe.
We did. So here's what I think it is, because I've actually thought about this a lot since Friday, because I thought I was the only one that was this mean to you, and I was like, oh, I'm actually on the nice end of the spectrum.
Oh, with my staff?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so
they got after it last night.
And we talked about it a little bit, and I was like, oh, I'm actually like relatively nice to you.
Although my man Brett was actually cool. Like, he checked on me afterwards. He had some concern for my well-being. I was like, oh, God, do I look tired?
Yeah.
It's like, no, I just look like got a lot of pressure. And I'm like, oh. And he is kind of the same. Like, he is supposed to be the rough one of the bunch.
Yeah.
But he's really not.
Yeah.
He's totally the gentle giant.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I thought about it a lot, and I think it's because I think you make people too comfortable.
Yeah, that sucks. Well,
which is a good thing.
Should I do like the AGBF?
I don't know what that means.
Well, the A stands for angry, and the F stands for face. So you can fill in the BG.
Oh, yeah, gotcha.
I don't have one, though.
No, not really. I think it's you put people at ease and you make them comfortable so they get a little loose.
Yeah.
I think that's what happens.
Don't you talk for a living? Don't you? You got a microphone. That's what I should have told
You're like,
her.
yes, I do. We don't pronounce prescription names a lot.
Yeah.
That's not a big part of the show.
You say AF a lot.
Big Air Force guy.
Yeah.
Driving through the neighborhood picking Zoe up from Prairie Lane yesterday. Big American flag and a big AF.
Troy Calhoun?
Yes. Shout out Air Force.
I do love me some service academies.
Yeah, you get a big one this week. Are you excited?
I am excited, yeah. I'm disappointed in the rest of the country.
Is that 11 o'clock CBS, 2 o'clock? No, it's usually a little later.
It's usually afternoon. I think it's like a 3 usually. I am a little disappointed in the rest of the country.
Why?
That Jeff Monken still is working at Army.
I don't know. Maybe he's not a good interview.
At some point, the record speaks for itself.
I read an article on the front page of.
Do you think Bill Belichick's a good interview?
I don't know. Are you getting Pat McAfee or ESPN Pat McAfee, Bill Belichick, or did he?
Or are you getting press conference Bill Belichick?
Yeah, he said, "Oh man, let me go back to press conference, Bill." So he's clear. He's cognizant of what he was doing because he was a little loose.
100%. Yeah.
That hire doesn't bother me though. You can't get me to.
No, it doesn't bother me at all.
To get riled up about that.
I think it's a reasonable shot to take.
Reasonable.
Yeah, I think so.
You have like a quantifying scale within your head that is on a continuum.
Yeah.
And you're like,
it's on the side of a reasonable
irrational.
Hire. Yes.
Reasonable.
Like Trent Dilfer, irrational hire.
Yeah.
At UAB. Ridiculous.
Yeah.
Don't know what that is.
Where was Dion at Colorado?
Dion's a real hire. That was a rational hire.
Was it rational?
Yeah.
Okay.
I understand what they were doing. I didn't know if it was going to work, but I understood what they were doing.
Where's Jeff Butler? Go. Sorry. It's actually John.
I think I actually had a Jeff Butler play for me.
Hey, so I had to relive that again yesterday.
The John Butler stuff?
Yeah.
It's fun. It's a lot of fun for people, I think.
Oh, really? So I thought of I'm constantly thinking.
Mm-hmm.
So I thought
probably
of this,
too much, but
so I thought of this last night listening to coincidentally Stephen Kerr's meltdown.
Oh, about the timeout
after the bad call.
Yeah.
For they called the foul on the jump ball.
Oh yeah. Okay.
With like 4 seconds to play.
The Denver timeout meltdown was on my TikTok a couple days ago.
So it helped decide the game, and it was
bad call.
Yeah, you don't see it a ton.
Yeah,
according to him, since 8th grade. Which I wonder what his fine will be. Doesn't matter. It's pocket change.
I was saying my man does not care.
Yeah. So I thought about this. I have preconceived notions about Steve Kerr and his press conferences.
Mm-hmm.
Like I have an idea of who and what he is.
Right.
So I challenged myself with all those preconceived notions to just listen to what he was saying.
Okay. Trying to remove the filters.
Trying to remove, because I talk about this all the time when you want to process information. If you want to function at a high level, I think you have to have the ability to do that like real time.
Yeah.
And the better you have the ability to do that real time, I think the better you can get along with people and problem solve. But anyway, I left that little mental exercise, thinking outside of all the other stuff, he had a legitimate point. Could I eat the meat and spit out the bones?
Yeah.
Because most times he drives me up the wall.
Really?
Yes.
A little condescending?
I think you can't be that way all the time. Because then you force people to do what I had to do, and it's like, give it one more shot to parse through.
Yeah.
It's like reading guys that can't write. It's like reading information from guys that can't write. Right? Occasionally, like, they're going to crank something out, and it's like, oh, man.
But it's really hard to digest.
I'm glad I read that.
Yeah. It can be really challenging to digest, though.
Yeah, so that's how I feel about Butler. I feel like because we think all these things ahead of time, we can't process the information real time. And it's like sometimes you just have to kind of pull back. And I'm thinking, is this because we were hoping for X, Y, and Z? Is this because, we went through the linear example yesterday of because the secondary didn't perform at a high level, we associate that with his ability to coach.
Yeah.
Right, on the surface, it seems to make fairly good connecting sense, right? Well, some guys in the back end didn't play very well. This guy must not be able to coach.
Only at the surface does it make sense.
The problem is he's got almost 30 years that would tell you otherwise.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
So, like, you have to be cognizant of that from time to time. So I think that's what a lot of it was, because even the names that guys, I even tell you, even the coaches that I think Coach Rule and that staff were interested or talking to, resumes were very were similar.
Yeah.
So, very similar.
I think he was looking for something pretty specific.
Very much so.
And when you do that, you're not going to have a huge pool
and admittedly, it was difficult.
Yeah, it was. I think that's fair. It took the amount of time that it did because it seemed like a choice that he was making with a great amount of kind of thought and consideration. But I think you can look at the John Butler thing basically in two ways. And it's okay to not be thrilled with the hire. I said yesterday that I wasn't. But then people have a hard time hearing two things at once, where I can be not thrilled with the hire and also think it's ridiculous, kind of the slander about the hire. Like, I called it on last week. I thought it was going to be Simons from SMU. I thought that would have been a really good hire. Would have been a hire I was excited about, right? I would have been excited about like an Arnett, who was at Ole Miss, was Mississippi State before that. I liked those guys in particular. But I can also sit here and tell you that it doesn't mean either of them would have been better than John Butler. I have no idea. And it also, I don't think they have dramatically better resumes than John Butler either. I think John Butler's resume in a vacuum is better than either of those two guys. More experience, has professional level experience, has college level experience. The only thing they have is a couple more years as a DC and more recently, right? But that doesn't translate necessarily to success. We have no idea. We have no idea what it means to go from an SMU in the Big 12 and the AAC before that to the Big 10. We have no idea what it looks like for.
Well, I think we realize. So I think what good leadership does sometimes is they process. They don't anticipate fallout, but they process contingencies, right?
Sure.
So when you've hired a lot of people for a long time, you can do it quickly. So I imagine with the administration and Coach Rule in particular, you're like, all right, what questions will arise if I hire this guy, this guy, this guy, this guy?
Sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
So let's use Simons for example. Coming from this conference to this conference, only did it a year. People are going to analyze the data, scrutinize the hire. What am I willing to put up with in a position of leadership for a guy that made that hire? Well, if I go with this guy, they're going to scrutinize this. They'll probably say this. They'll probably say this. I think this. I think this. So you just do this, right? Yeah. And at the end of the day, you ask yourself, which one which of the variables can you control the most? Oftentimes,
Yeah.
that's how people make decisions, especially when you're trying to mitigate disaster.
The question I would ask myself is, which of these guys is worth the fallout that he brings?
See, I don't know if you anticipate failure.
No, I mean the fallout of the hire itself, not the failure.
But, okay, so yeah, and I guess you'd pit that against how fleeting you think that time span is.
Right, like how
Like,
long,
how long
do
are
you
people
think?
going to bitch about it?
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
Right? So
answer is not long.
Yeah, probably not. I mean, we'll move on to something else. We'll move on to somebody in the transfer portal or whatever. Like, we'll get upset about something else. Then, if it doesn't work out early, then we'll go back and be mad again.
Which, by the way, I hadn't, I bat about 950. I'm starting to doubt myself a little bit. Didn't read, although with Coach White, one huge extenuating circumstance I was not privy to. Coach Knight, I had no idea. I thought,
but that one went down to the wire too.
I thought going in that his preference would be to hire, not promote from within, because I knew he knew that Butler and Snow were. I think he had to rationalize in his head, was safe the same as the best.
Sure, like he knew what he was getting.
Yeah.
Versus upside.
Right.
Yeah.
So, or no, because that tandem, I don't think he would cap the upside because he doesn't know.
Fair.
So I wouldn't say upside.
Okay.
Right.
But he knew what he was getting versus.
I think so. Maybe like if you'd like how low or high the floor is.
Fair. Okay.
Maybe.
So is the higher floor the best hire?
Because I think he feels like he's seen the worst of Butler.
So he knows what that is.
He knows what that is.
When you bring in a guy you haven't worked with before, you have no idea what the floor is.
So then you pit that against the other determining factors. And so like I say, let's say like if I'm North Carolina.
Do you think that's why he liked Satterfield? He knew what his floor was? Or he knew what the worst of Satterfield was?
No.
Okay.
No. I think he likes. No. It's a good question, real time. Because I want to say, well, why does he like Satterfield? But I like Satterfield.
Right.
So I'm like.
I just meant like as a coach, right?
No, I don't think so.
Okay. Because I could see that.
I'd have to think about it. Yeah. So that's why you
and it might be a part
you
of
can hear
it.
the flexion in my voice. It's like, because if I have an open mind, then I'm not going to answer definitively.
Yeah. And it's probably not an absolute, right? There's probably a little bit of this, a little bit of that.
So like if I'm looking at this whole Belichick thing, and I'm North Carolina, and what's going to be the final number? Roughly 10 mil?
I believe so.
For however long you think you're getting him for. Let's say, I don't know, 3 years. And I'm going to pay 10 mil. I think Carolina thinks, is this the going rate for his pedigree, given the way that college athletics is moving? Because I was listening to all these reports, Matt Fortuna, all these guys that were kind of not fallout, but this candidate was maybe interested, or Tommy Reese, or whomever else. It seemed like a lot of the guys that were interviewing had similar plans. We talked yesterday about Coach Rule already structuring the athletic department similar to the laid out demands from Belichick. We know how Alabama operates. We know how just 3 years ago, we need to be like Alabama and Georgia. We need scouting departments. We need designated analysts.
And what's one of the first things that Rule did?
Right? So I think Belichick just said the quiet part out loud.
Yeah.
Now, you could parse through whether you want Steven.
Yeah, that's the part that's like he's just being a dad.
So,
but the rest of it, the actual football stuff, is the thing that we've all been saying. And he just put labels on it.
And I think that's what a lot of coaches are quietly doing.
Well, and let's be real here. We keep saying, "Oh, it's turning in the NFL. It's turning in the NFL. It's turning in the NFL." So why not go hire one of the best coaches the NFL's ever seen?
Yeah.
Like that's why it's on the reasonable side of the scale for me, because it's like, okay, if this really is turning to the NFL, who better to hire than a guy that has the best track record in NFL history?
Yeah.
Now, I don't know if he's still that guy or not. He's 72. I have no idea, but it makes sense, right? It's not irrational. It's not this shot in the dark because he's some big name. This is a guy that knows what he's doing, and you could make an argument that organizationally he was better than anyone.
Yeah.
Like, that's kind of the thing.
That's his
superpower, right?
Yeah.
Is being organizationally and like so super over prepared.
I like how you use superpower. I was talking to
I know, I
somebody
stole that from you.
I was talking to somebody last night on the phone, and I was like, I think such and such and such and such is our superpower.
Mm-hmm. That's organization within a football context is Bill Belichick's superpower.
Yeah, that's your job. I'm going to turn you loose. Go do it.
That's why he famously had ridiculously large and specific coaching staff positions. He'd be like, hey, you're a corners coach. You're a safety.
But overall, his support staff was fairly small, relatively speaking.
Yes. But they were so
very
specific.
Finite. They were very finite.
It's like you are outside like he was one of the first guys I remember having like an outside linebackers coach versus an inside linebackers coach.
So do you realize that we were willing, because we like him? This is the duality of fan bases. We were willing to just seamlessly accept Simpson because we want him back as a coach. And nobody ever asked the question.
He's never coached a position before.
So now we've got an outside linebackers coach and a linebackers coach. You know, like normally, if we don't like or want somebody, we'll parse through.
When we also
overlap.
We also like Dvorak, right?
Yeah.
So instead of being like, well, Dvorak can't coach all the linebackers, we go, oh, man, great hire, Simpson, right? And we also gloss over the fact that, all of a sudden, like, this guy's good enough to be a position coach. He's only been an analyst before.
And I like it, though, because Simpson can coach guys closer to the ball that play like a fourth or fifth D lineman sometimes, which is different because for all the tackles that Bear made, he was a 65-35 go the right way guy.
Yeah.
So maybe you could pay more attention
to those guys.
If
you're Dvorak. Yeah. No, it makes a ton of sense. That's DB.
65-35 may be generous.
I would say I feel like you're being nice today. That's DB. I'm Ravi. I'm Ravi Lulla. We'll be back. More Hurrdat Sports Radio coming up next. Welcome back, Hurrdat Sports Radio, AM 590, ESPN Omaha, ESPN Tri-Cities. That's DB. I'm Ravi Lulla here at Hurrdat Sports Bar and Grill. We are live on Twitter, Facebook, and YouTube. Earlier in the week, you couldn't hear us for a while. Today, you couldn't see us. I think we're both being heard and seen on the internet now.
Oh.
I think we nailed it. Finally got it. Let's get to
my dad used to tell me be seen, not heard.
Well, technically, we got to be both now.
Is that part of the job?
Being heard is a crucial part of the job on this one.
All right, I think he'd give us some grace.
A little bit?
Yeah,
circumstantially, I think it's okay.
Be seen, not heard.
Let's get to Jesse. He'll be heard, not seen here on the Hurrdat Hotline. Jesse, what's going on?
Not much, guys. How you doing?
All right, what's up, East Coast fan? More East Coast fandom?
Well, Patriots fan for
ever.
Yeah, I had a picture of myself in the yearbook wearing an old school Drew Bledsoe jersey. I believe in.
Oh, not
nice.
Tony Eason.
No, not always. I was just a little guy back then. I'm not as old as Damon. It's like
wow. Me and Methuselah hanging out.
No, so I've had a front row seat as a fan to Belichick, and I can tell you how this is going to go. I can tell you the ceiling of how this is going to go. It's not going to look quite like Alabama. I think it can look really good because obviously, in the era of NIL, especially in North Carolina, all you got to do is make one phone call, right?
Yeah.
It's one phone call, and it's the silhouette on your jersey, okay? So there's that aspect of it. But I think from an organizational standpoint, from a player development standpoint, I think they're going to look a lot more like Iowa with Ferentz being a disciple.
Yeah.
I think Ferentz took a lot from Belichick and how to build and run a program at any level. So you're going to see him, just like he did in the NFL, you're going to see him taking shots at lower star guys and turn them into NFL guys because he knows how to do that. He did that with free agents in the NFL all the time. The one thing I do worry about was what he did in the draft a lot. And if that translates to how he'll recruit, I worry about that because he does believe, and maybe he is, but he strongly believes he's the smartest person in every room he walks into, and I don't know how good of a trait that is. And that's what
Jesse, let me ask you something, champ. Do you think he can wait through the development phase? Because if that's his plan, he must plan on being there for maybe longer than I'm speculating.
I don't. So there's a two parts there. I think he can wait. I think he's going to be there for 3 or 4 years, honestly.
I said 3.
And I think he can recruit a 2-star and turn him into a first or second rounder. I absolutely believe that. But I also believe in the NIL transfer portal, he can do what he did in the pros, which is go find a guy who's productive and has traits he can use in certain spots, and then bring them to his program and say, hey, this one thing you do that for us every single play, and that's all I'm going to ask you to do. And then that person becomes a star.
All right, let me ask you one more thing.
Yeah.
Is college football closer or further away from the whole I'll wait? As a coach, I can wait for the other team to beat themselves. Is college football more? Okay. So
yes,
you think returning to like big fundamentals and not making mistakes could be even more critical than having big play guys?
Yeah, I have one very close to home example of that. What happened on Black Friday?
Yeah.
Kirk Ferentz beat Nebraska with 3 plays because he let Nebraska beat themselves.
Interesting.
I mean,
Jesse.
that's the game.
Yeah.
Appreciate the call, Jesse.
All right, Jesse. And you know what's funny about him saying that? You could make the case, and you wouldn't even have to. I don't even know how many objections you'd hear.
Mm-hmm.
I think Georgia less mistake Texas.
Oh, yeah, I think so. Yeah.
And that's high in talent.
Yeah.
Did Clemson less mistake SMU?
Oh, yeah, especially early, 100%.
Huh.
Or even late. I mean, that kickoff return's a mistake, right, for SMU? Like, there's no way Clemson should be able to get that field goal off.
No, I don't think that's a mistake? I don't look at that as like things that happen naturally in the flow of a game. Like, and I know you might say, well, turnovers, but they don't happen every game. I don't look at like that.
Okay.
That's
I do. I think a kickoff return of that magnitude or of that size in that moment is a mistake. I think you could make – I mean, SMU, I know their kicker can kick it through the end zone.
But do you know what I'm saying, though? Like waiting for somebody, like dropping a ball.
I would argue if the argument against myself –
self-inflicted.
Yeah,
kind of how I look at it.
The argument against myself would be that's more of a play that Clemson made versus a mistake that SMU made. But I would also argue
is it sloppy-er or more sloppy?
Both are accurate.
In execution in 2024 heading into 2025.
Oh, it's sloppier.
So there is a place for guys that
So even, you talk about the continuity all the time.
Yeah.
We're going to have less and less continuity. You're already dealing with a game.
I could see that
in college football
because of cohesiveness.
Yeah, right. The more you trust and know each other, the fewer mistakes you're going to have. The fewer breakdowns you're going to have on defense. The fewer breakdowns you're going to have on special teams. That's why I would argue, like, if you execute a kickoff well, no one should ever have a return like that outside of like a Devin Hester or something. Like, if you execute a kickoff well, the number of big returns you see is so low.
Just kick it out of the end zone, you mean?
Yeah, either just kick it out of the end zone, you got your coverages correct or whatever. Like, it doesn't happen very often. Yeah. So that's why I chalk it up as a mistake.
I would be curious to see if I don't buy into I get it, the whole, if you could afford to, nobody's going to make a choice to buy 70-30 ground beef over, 85-15 or
depends on what you're making.
Or
80-20, sure.
Chuck over.
Yeah, you're not going Chuck
so
over.
So I'm not going to say guys are going to be like, hey, you know what? I want to take the most bare bones of a player and see if I can. I don't buy into.
I don't think that's the choice they're making.
But I do get his point on he could probably get more out of marginal.
Yes. I mean, we have to start off with there's a finite number of guys that are ready-made, good to go, right?
Well, because and we forgot we have rapidly forgot what made Belichick great. One of the things was the versatility within the schemes, right? Seymour could play in a 5. He could play in a 3. Sometimes they would put him in the in a nose. You know, sometimes Vrabel would have his hand in the dirt. Sometimes he could play inside. Like the cross training within the football player was something that
we've never really seen before.
He's just vastly undersold in that, right? So, and
especially now when he's got no limit on what his staff
maybe
can
if
be.
let's say Jesse's right and he leans more towards like football acumen and development. I mean, there's probably a place for that.
I would think so. I don't know what the ceiling is on that.
I would love, like, when I watched James Williams playing a 3-tech, rush the passer, I was like, oh, I like that.
Yeah.
Right? And then you could turn around, or Ty Robinson would go out and play in a 7. Like,
yeah. Could I make the argument?
Tough guy to handle at 300 pounds in a 7.
100%.
But he has to be able to, right?
Yeah. Because if it's just some slow guy out there, it doesn't matter.
Those are hard.
Yeah. Could I make the argument that with Belichick, that he may focus on trying to get guys that almost a kind of a Matt Rule situation where he gets these guys that are sort of a lump of clay,
they're definitely
like an athletic profile.
There's definitely some philosophical similarities. I can well, you know that I talk
because what you're talking about sounds a lot like the things we talk about with Matt Rule.
Yep, that's 100% true.
He's like, hey, I like that this. We talked about it with the defensive coordinator when he was going through that process. Is he wanted some defensive versatility within the schemes?
Yeah,
right. That's what he liked about the 3-3-5 is it gave him some options to look different ways, and that's very similar to what you're talking about with Belichick.
I just like the way that they can cross train, right? Like, I'll use Donovan Jones as an example. As he's grown, and you could ask him. I don't know how he could probably do radio. He's played field. He's played boundary. I think he's probably even cross trained at some free, right? But there's different skill sets within the 3.
Sure.
But as his body type changes,
that kind of determines for him.
But they'll have it all in the bank.
Yeah.
Right? So I get it. It just may take a second to settle in and to being comfortable because early on you've seen so much. Then you'll go back and say, oh, now I just do this. Now I can settle in and do that skill.
TK, hold on here. We'll get to you on the other side. That's DBM, Ravi, Lulla, more Hurrdat Sports Radio. Coming up next. We're back here on Hurrdat Sports Radio, AM 590, ESPN Omaha, ESPN Tri-Cities. That's DBM Ravi Lulla reminding you that if you're on your way to work, make sure that seatbelt is fastened. It can prevent injuries and save lives, but only if worn properly. Make it click. This message from the NDOT Highway Safety Office.
I tell you what my goofball daughter did with seatbelts.
Oh, no. What?
So
what are you doing now?
Bless her heart. I had to get her a couple minutes early yesterday from school because Micah had an appointment and they get out early on Wednesday. So, it's like 2:40 or whatever. So I got a little snack bag and water because I know what she likes to snack on. And it's a long time in the car for her. So I had her iPad and her headsets. And she kind of sometimes is a little sleepy after school. So she laid down. And she can use both. She knows I'm going to say, are you buckled? So she will lay her little narrow self down in that seat and use 2 seatbelts and tell me she's buckled in so she can lay down. I said, this girl.
I don't know how that works exactly, but at least she's trying.
She just, because she's a rule follower.
Yeah.
Totally got that from her mom.
Yeah.
And so she's going to stand on business. She's going to say, not that you're laying down, it's I'm buckled in.
Always looking for loopholes.
Man.
Let's get to TK real quick on the Hurrdat hotline.
So, yeah, NDOT, shout out.
Yeah, make sure you got that thing. Make it click.
Got that thing.
Got that thing what? That thing click.
Whatever.
Let's get to our guy TK here. Wants to talk one of my favorite subjects in college football, Jeff Monken. What's going on, TK?
Good morning, fellas. How we doing this morning?
TK, I thought we were going to talk Green Bay and Duquesne.
Yeah, I can't fault you. Not everybody's right all the time.
Shoot, that sucks.
It's okay. You've only lost 3 bets in 2 weeks. So as long as you keep feeding me winners, we won't have any problems.
Feed me. I got one tonight.
I'll say I think he's 19 for his last 22, TK.
I got one tonight.
I was trying to add it up, but I think it's 19 for 22, which is stupid.
Hey, so TK,
have you bet any of them?
No.
I have.
So my mystery buddy, he texted last night, and he was like, "Hey, couldn't get over to the spot. Glad I missed it." And he gave me a fist bump emoji. I was like, "Oh, he's getting way too comfortable." But he is.
That's tough.
I know. I've known him for 32 years, so it's like he's earned the right. Earned the right.
Yeah.
What do you got, TK?
Okay, so no matter how much I think that people should hire Jeff Monken and they should run the flex phone because it can totally work, because I've played enough years in that offense to know that most defenders are not smart enough to play against it because they can't decide. They want to get the ball, and we take advantage of that. I think Jeff Monken is just too comfortable being the head coach at Army. That's it's a comfortable gig for him, and he doesn't have to worry about the transfer portal at all or any of that big stuff, because they can't take transfers.
Yeah. I read an article, and I appreciate the call, TK. That article that I was talking about service academies and how they don't sleep and how they have to maximize their time. It's fascinating.
Yeah.
People allude to it all the time, but just like the daily schedules.
Yeah, you don't know what it's actually like.
Man, it's crazy.
Yeah, it's nuts. I've heard people talk about how
It's a great read, by the way.
I don't remember who I heard talking about this, but they're like NFL or college football training camp after you've been through boot camp is like a vacation.
Yeah.
Right? Which makes sense, right?
I started, this is so stupid, in the shower this morning, but the mind is going to think about anything.
Mm-hmm.
So it was the service academies, and the question that I asked, but this one's easy. It's different than the brain surgeon, which, by the way, shout out to the crew that was working here yesterday. You guys listening and gals. So we're walking out. You know how we've been hand-wringing over the degree of difficulty of being a college football job versus a brain surgeon. Shane, we're walking out yesterday. He didn't say hello. He didn't say how are you. He didn't say love the show. My man looked dead at me, and he goes, brain surgeon. And I go, what?
That's all.
What? He goes, I'd rather be a brain surgeon. I was like, because you're smart.
No, you people are nuts. You people are out of your minds.
So, but listen. I got one for you.
You're too flippant about the power in your hands as a brain surgeon.
Now, remember, the question was, if you've already acquired the skill set,
you've got the necessary ability.
I was thinking about Navy SEALs.
Oof.
And if I already didn't have to go through training, I still think I'd rather be a SEAL.
God, no way. Get out of here.
You don't think?
No. Nobody's shooting at me on the sidelines, man.
They're so cool.
Get out of here. You're nuts. Yeah, I mean, come on, dude.
So football player versus
You would
Navy SEAL? Is that what we're asking?
A 2025 head college football coach or a Navy SEAL.
You'd rather be a Navy SEAL.
Well, you're a badass if you're a Navy SEAL.
Listen, I'm not telling you which one's cooler. I'm saying which one's easier.
I mean,
Like Navy SEAL, like, whether it's your SEALs, your Rangers, whatever, like all the special force people, like biggest badasses.
So I would already have to have mastered being able to be in like 30-degree water.
Yeah, you've done But okay, here's
I almost said shrapnel. What's the thing where you like come out of the helicopters and you're on like the rope?
Rappel.
Rappel.
When you're like rappelling off a.
Yeah, I don't know. I think I'd rather deal with knuckleheads than do that. But as a matter of fact, I'm like 98% sure. But
It's absolutely you'd rather be a football coach. Come on.
If I could get over that, though.
Here's the thing, though. You didn't say that you said you've got the necessary skills. It did not mean that you love everything you're doing now.
Yeah, because I'm sure those guys don't.
Yeah, like just because you have acclimated yourself to being in the negative 30-degree weather or whatever doesn't mean it's any more enjoyable. It just means you can do it.
I just can't believe you picked. There were so many other things you could have said other than a brain surgeon.
I was thinking of a really hard job with really high stakes.
Why you just could have said a fireman?
I would definitely rather be a football coach than a fireman, or a police officer, or a Navy SEAL, or a brain surgeon, or a cardiologist.
Okay.
Or a customer service rep.
Forget it.
I'm just saying, like, there's a lot of, like, it's funny because I agree with your premise that it's harder than it's ever been to be a head coach.
Oh, I think, man, have I not been texting my buddy back?
Who?
He said to be fed winners, LMAO, I usually can't get a text back. That's not true.
Who's that?
That's Degenerate.
Oh.
He comes up once a day on this show.
I think sometimes when we talk about people on the air, you think that counts as texting them back or talking to them, and it doesn't.
Oh.
You still have to actually do the thing.
That's fine. That's fine.
Yeah. But that's the funny thing about this argument is I agree with your premise that being a head coach in 2025 is harder than it's ever been, and it's an unbelievably hard job. I disagree that it's harder than a lot of the other things we've been talking about, but in general, I agree with where you're going with it. And I don't
need for you to throw me a bone.
I'm not throwing you a bone. I'm trying to make the distinction.
Beat it.
Because I think I'm getting painted in a corner here because I disagree with.
That's where babies go.
No, you don't put baby in a corner. That's the whole point of the movie. But I do. My guy Gus Malzahn really spoke to this exact thing yesterday about.
I don't know what your infatuation with him is, but knock yourself out.
You know what it is.
He doesn't appear to be a nice guy.
Yeah, I identify with.
Definitely.
I identify with.
I identify as Gus. Go ahead.
No, it's because that offense gave. I just have like PTSD from the first 3 quarters of Auburn FSU in 2013, where his offense just did whatever it wanted, despite the fact that they had a quarterback that could barely throw a forward pass. So, yeah, I'm enamored with that. It's unbelievable to me.
Because that's what you want in your repertoire, right?
I
want to be able to win with a quarterback that can't water if he fell out.
I don't want to have like Jordan Travis or a Heisman candidate or whatever to have to win games.
Jordan Travis was your next
next
in the queue?
I was talking about FSU from last year to this year.
Fudge.
It wasn't that Jordan Travis is like the end-all be-all. It was.
Well, you didn't specify the duration. You just were talking FSU and quarterbacks.
Yeah, and I was going.
You didn't go. I was talking. That's quietly moving the goalpost. That is not what you said.
I'm explaining of what was happening in my head.
Well, you can go back and get it then. It's not crazy for what I said.
No.
All right. That's all I wanted to know.
But I'm giving you context that I was thinking about FSU over the last couple years.
Nobody asked you over there, Timmy.
All right, I'll turn it off.
All right. What do you want?
No, I was going to say when it comes to the coaching and the SEALs.
Yes.
Is it the limelight that you don't want?
As a what?
As a coach. Because you go anywhere as an NFL coach, everybody under the sun's going to know.
If you've got limelight as a SEAL, you're not doing your job very well.
I think it's my reverence for SEALs that makes me rather want to be one.
That's fair.
I think that's what it is.
But it's definitely a harder job.
Yeah, I think that's what it is.
Navy SEAL is a way harder job than football coach.
Who asked you?
You did. Oh. You brought it up.
I'm sorry about that.
I was going to read this quote from Gus Malzahn.
Go ahead. You love Gus.
I love that he makes me right now, or that he's echoing what I've been saying. He says,
there could be 2 wrong people.
Nah, I don't think that's right. If I'm in the room, that's certainly not the case. He goes, I love coaching football. And head coaches, it's hard to do that a lot. So that had something to do with it. And then the opportunity of being familiar with Mike and whatever. He goes, coached against the university. I know what this place is capable of doing. But he likes coaching football, and he's like, I'm a head coach. I don't get to coach any football. Yeah. That's the point. And I think we're going to see a lot more of it. Also, we're going to see Castellanos over at FSU running that Gus Malzahn offense.
Yeah, best wishes.
Yeah, we'll see what happens. That's DB. I'm Ravi Lulla. We've got, what do we have next? We got Ben McLaughlin coming up next.
Yeah.
Our guy, Benny Mack, here on Hurrdat Sports Radio. Welcome back, Hurrdat Sports Radio, AM 590, ESPN Omaha, ESPN Tri-Cities. That's DB. I'm Ravi Lulla. We are joined now on the Hurrdat Hotline by Ben McLaughlin from the Husker Sports Network. Ben, how are you this morning?
Gentlemen, good morning. Happy Thursday to the both of you.
Hey, so you know what's super ironic, and I don't mean like the Alanis Morissette kind?
A little too ironic.
I'm talking to a Golden State fan next to me every day, B-Mac. And on the other end of the phone is this guy that told me a couple years ago about the emergence of the Rockets. How funny.
Yeah.
How funny is that this morning? Not very or kind of funny, Ravi?
I think it's hilarious.
The old,
ha, ha, ha.
the old Alperen Şengün strikes again.
Hey, so when was that we were just talking about whether to re-sign him or not? Was that earlier this season?
It must have been. It must have been. And the thing about those Rockets teams back then is they just had dudes that just jacked up shop, right? Jalen Green, Kevin Porter, who has since moved on. Nice to see his reemergence back into the league after his, 1 or 2 year hiatus. But those dudes would just cast shots. And it was a contest to see how many bricks they could throw up every night. But, hey, some nights they went in.
It's only a hiatus if you aren't really into Chinese basketball.
That's true. Was he on the same team as Jimmer Fredette?
I don't know if he was with Jimmer or if he was with Jeremy Lin, but somebody was getting buckets over there.
So, but they're really good. I mean, they can guard, but like with Van Fleet and Jabari, apparently Jabari Smith is going to be a good player again.
It took him a while. It took him a minute to figure it out because, he was looking like a bust there for a while.
So now they all play like Dylan Brooks now. That's
the thing is Van Vliet's not having that good of a year, but he's still, doing enough. Like I think he dropped like almost 40 the other night, so it's nice to see that he could still do it. But yeah, how about the Houston Rockets? And back then they would lose like 164 to 141 in regulation, and you're like, oh yeah, okay, another loss, but hey, it was fun to watch.
I do kind of think it's dangerous for the league to have more than one guy playing like Dylan Brooks. Like, I don't know how many ACLs and ankles are going to be left after he's undercut. After you got an entire team just undercutting every jump shot in the league.
And that's the thing is, like, as much as he does that and everybody in the league hates him, the only video I can think of is the little Remember the Titans dance he was doing coming out on the floor. Was it? That was when he was in Memphis, I think, and they tried to be the small man version of the Detroit Pistons a couple of years ago.
And by the way, I think LaMelo Ball, although he we'll see how he's feeling health-wise, I think he just shot a ball again. You saw that?
Sure.
You saw that coming, didn't he? Is this dude not living his best life when he comes back?
It's Brandon Miller. Yeah, when he's not, it's Brandon Miller, except they're actually going in for Miller right now, which is great. But, yeah, I didn't think you showed up to work today with a Visa Micic reference, but here we are. Dude is just – you want to talk about Planet Fitness ball. That's your guy right there.
I thought that was our guy Raleigh.
This is the European version.
Oh, gotcha. Because I was telling Ravi last week. Sometimes their lineups when they roll out there, it looks like guys you get off at LA Fitness, and they would you'd say, "Oh yeah, I got Raleigh. I'm guarding Raleigh." You look up and he's like giving you 20.
He has like a 500 RPM rotation layup spin off the backboard that somehow goes in, and you're like, "What? Is that scientifically possible?"
Did you see Berke coming? Or are you still waiting on him to get a little more fitness and healthy? Because, man, he's got a nice little library catalog that he can go to.
He's got that nice little Euro game. We call it what it is. He's got the nice little Euro game. He does.
He's got a lot of skills. I think, and you guys know, you watch Fred Hoiberg's teams play. It's always an adjust. And in this day and age, it's not that hard because everybody wants to shoot the three. Like, when we pick up a ball at LA Fitness, we're not working on layups. We're out there catching threes. And I feel like the same could be said for a lot of the college kids these days. Like, fives want to shoot, and Berke's one of those guys. So I think his transition to playing the five is going to be a little bit easier than maybe some. But when he can figure out how to guard the post consistently in this league, I think he's going to be okay because you guys are right. I think he's got a lot of tools in that toolbox.
Are you expecting a little bit of a bounce back against IU?
Well, I hope.
Ravi's a big Mike Woodson guy. So
That's not true. Don't put those dirty words in my mouth. How dare you?
I was going to say, you're on an island by yourself there, my friend. Yeah,
that'd be that
guy.
That'd be that garbage patch island in the middle of the ocean. That's the island I'd be on.
What is it going to take for that program to turn it around? I mean, it's not like they haven't had talent over the last few years, but there is no life in that program at all.
And they started with a preseason top 15 ranking.
Every year. It's a tradition unlike any other. Then they lose an early one, or they get trounced by a team like Kentucky. You're like, oh, maybe they got some work to do.
You mean the guy that looked like a mannequin on the sidelines in the NBA isn't injecting life into a blue blood? I'm stunned.
Now he's looking like a mannequin in Bloomington.
I know. I mean, listen, at least you knew exactly what you were getting with Mike Woodson.
Oh, boy. Yeah, I think so. I mean, I feel like every time you want to put a label on Nebraska basketball, good, bad, they tend to do the opposite the next time out.
Yeah.
So I know Fred Hoiberg, if he used a word like pissed in his post-game press conference, I would imagine practice was ramping up a few degrees the last few days, and he'll have them ready to go.
And if there's one thing I think they are going to be good at, I do think they'll be able to defend.
Yeah, I would agree. I mean, this team is going to be interesting to follow for a lot of reasons. One, we saw them struggle to shoot early. Then we saw the Creighton game. And now the other big question was rotations. What was that going to look like? I think that's all completely open now with what happened in East Lansing. So, Coach Hoiberg is not about leaving rocks unturned. He's going to do everything he can to put a competitive team out there.
So, Ben, we're about a quarter of the way through the season here. What were you right about with this team before the season, and what's kind of caught you off guard here a little bit?
Well, I was right in that Esijan is going to be a massive weapon. I think, the first few games he was like 1 of 10 or 2 of 12 or something from 3. I'm like, that's not real. That guy's way better than that. And then, of course, you've seen the nights where he comes out and explodes. Not to say that he is Keisei Tominaga, but he can shoot like Keisei can. Something I haven't necessarily been right about is Nebraska's bigs being able to come in and be consistent. Yeah. I knew it'd be a little bit of time before they found, a mix of guys and how many minutes, what's the distribution look like with Mia, with Morgan, and with Berke at the 5. How conditioned are those guys? That I think has surprised me a little bit, and I think has to be better if this team's going to reach their potential.
We were talking to one of our national guys yesterday, and I liked Illinois going into this season. He said something interesting. He didn't think Illinois was the best team in the league, but their best 40 minutes would be better than anybody else's 40 minutes in the Big Ten. Does that resonate?
They play so hard for him all the time. Like, I feel like of all the teams in the league that Nebraska's had a hard time with, like, every time Nebraska goes to Champaign, I'm like, great. Like, I already know what we're getting in for. Whether it's Kofi Coburn or whoever else, it's like they always play so hard. And if you don't, they're going to get that Smurf red face chewing your head off, and you're not going to want to be breathing anymore because that dude is a psycho, right? Can we all agree? Like, of all the teams in the league, he is right at the top of the list of dudes that I don't want to get yelled at by. Like, Tom Izzo can get up there, but he's like 5'9". So, like, a lot of bark and no bite. I think Brad Underwood could bite a little bit.
Yeah, if I had to place a bet on anybody that would do his best Bob Knight impersonation and either like choke a player or throw a chair, it would definitely be Underwood.
Oh, 100%. There's been coaches I've interviewed in the past where I've asked a question and I kind of like flinch, like, are you going to punch me in the face? I would probably do that every time interviewing Coach Underwood. After a win, after a loss, after signing day when it's supposed to be glorious, like, he always looks mad.
Like
Always.
I know that Fran yells a lot, but he strikes me more as like a whiner though. Like Brad's kind of scary.
Yeah, that's a really good way to put it.
Like he kind of seems like a whiny baby. Like it seems like he's just throwing a fit.
Is he the only coach in history to get 8 feet within a referee and just have a stare off? Like, that was excellent. Like, what do you think was going on in Kelly Pfeiffer's mind when Fran is just 2 hands on hips, 8 feet away, just staring straight through your soul?
I want to know what was going through Fran's mind. Like, what did he think he was going to accomplish there?
Intimidation, you know? But, like, I feel like at this point, Fran is as maniacal as a box full of kittens. Like, he's not the guy that's going to, like, he's a one-trick pony. You know, he's the guy that shows up at the holiday party with the same joke every year. Like, I think everybody's kind of on to him.
Hey, so, B-Mac, I got to take advantage of your range, obviously, heading to New York. I appreciate you for humoring us in the group chat about our setup. That was great. Thanks for not having my back. How'd you decide when you wanted to leave? Because I'm pretty bummed.
Well, everything in my house, and I think yours operates the same way, DB, you got to run it by the boss. And the concept of not being there for Christmas with 2 under 5s, I think I would have just been invited to stay in New York forever had I made that decision. So that was the first part. And the second part was, to make sure I could to get everything set up in a baseball stadium, nonetheless, and make sure I had everything squared away for the broadcast.
So do we have to do? I say we, like I actually help. Are we setting that up on our own again?
I think so. Yeah.
On
our own. What do you mean?
Well, normally normally the home team guys are there and they'll say, "Hey, if you need any help with the frequency," or "Hey, if you need this," or "Hey, if you need," who's that person?
I have no idea. I think that it might be Mr. Outside Hire, from what I can understand. But the good news is we're not the first team to play in the stadium for a football game. So they've done it before. I feel relatively confident. I'm not super jacked up to be spotting from behind. I think we could throw out the disclaimer right now to our radio audience, like, hey, yardages are going to be subjective today, and you're just going to have to deal with it.
Well, I mean, if they're subjective for the refs, why shouldn't they be subjective for you guys too?
Oh, good point.
Hey, that's true. I mean, it's not like this would be the first time we complain about a spot. It's so funny because all 3 of us just look at each other. Like, it doesn't come through on the radio, but when there's a bad spot, the looks that we all give each other in the booth, especially when Sharpie's up there, like, our mothers would be disappointed in how much we pout about that.
How are you gonna hand me notes?
Well, I don't know. I mean, I feel like the process will still be the same. Like, I'll still hold the board up.
Okay.
Now, what's on that board? There's no promise because it's the last one of the year and things could get a little weird.
You get the sense, though.
It's also it's the first bowl game we've been to in 8 years. Like, we're not going to know what to do with our hands. So it's going to be an adventure, I think, for all of us.
Ben, is he kind of like Ron Burgundy? Like, if you write something on that board, will he say it out loud?
Oh, jeez.
There are some things I write on that board that should not be said out loud, and there are times when I actually worry he's going to just read it. And I'm like, please get to, like, the 4th word in your head before you say this out loud. Like, because this has potential to be a real problem.
Oh, man. So do you like the Nebraska's ability to kind of focus in, like with all the changes and, Coach Rule is going to be pretty particular about this practice schedule. He's looked forward to this as some of these developmental practices. Do you kind of like how this shakes out given the staff's personality?
I absolutely love it, and I'll tell you why. Because we have football to go along with all this. Like, so many times in years past, this is all we had. So we're trying to figure out, hey, what's John Butler going to be like as a DC? How's this guy going to fit in? You know, how's this guy going to develop? We get to digest all that with football happening, with practices happening. So to marry those two together, I think is awesome, and it's really, really important. So yeah, I absolutely love it. I love the messaging. Surprise, surprise, that Coach Rule's passing down to his team about, you know, this is going to be our first look into next year. We need to prepare for this game like it's next year, next season. So I love that approach. I think that's really smart. And at the same time, as a fan base, we talked about this, like after I think the Colorado game. Can we just enjoy being in a bowl game? Like the amount of complaining I've heard from fans that were in the Pinstripe Bowl, it's like, what if we lost to Wisconsin? And how many times over the last few years have we heard, oh, I just want to make a bowl game. And then we get one and it's not good enough, or it's not the one that they wanted. It's like, we're in the season of gratefulness and thankfulness and giving. Let's be happy with what we got.
You think those are the same people that are or aren't going to the bowl game?
I think they all have similar motives in that regard, and are probably all a part of the same Facebook fan page or whatever exists these days. Like if you don't like the bowl game, you don't have to go, and you also don't have to watch. Like you could find something else to do. I think there's a game at Fenway Park right up the road happening at the same time, so maybe they could watch that one.
I mean, we do love Fenway Park over Yankee Stadium. That's true.
Oh, Mr. Red Sox.
I mean, I think that's fair.
Hey, congratulations on the trade yesterday, Ravi. That's a big one.
I'm excited about it. I'm afraid that means they're not going to go get Corbin Burns now too, which they definitely still should. Just go pay that man his money.
What would the Red Sox look like with quality depth in the front line rotation?
I would wonder what the Red Sox would look like with quality management and ownership, but I guess we'll much like DJ Khaled, I guess we'll never know. Or no, that's Kanye. Excuse me.
They're gonna look a lot better now that Mr. Soto has crossed the bridge for just under $200 billion or whatever it is. I mean, my goodness. So I think every Yankees fan in the world, that day is going to be marked on the calendar moving forward.
I'd be relieved, honestly. Like, you know how ridiculous that contract is? You're betting on a guy. I get he's really good, but 16 years and $700 million, like that just makes me nervous. I mean, I don't know. It's like the GDP of a small country.
I'm guessing Bonilla did the negotiating.
Yeah. I saw a tweet that he's making like $5,400 for every minute for the next 16 years. Like, how do I sign up for that plan as a very average high school baseball player?
I think we might have missed the boat on that, Benny Mac. We may have.
Okay.
I'm not sure that's
right.
Still in the cards for us.
Hey,
I'll cancel my plans for the strike zone this weekend then.
I'm going to get to the Chiefs here at the very end, but real quick, I want to ask you about, because you know this team's personality. You're around the guys. You have a good feel. More important pair to say that they're all in than Keona Davis and Emmett Johnson, knowing what you know about what Nebraska's the mood or the type of player they want to build around going forward?
Yeah, it makes me feel really good. And it makes me really feel really good how quick they made that decision, too. There was not this waiting period. There wasn't this, taking visits elsewhere. It was clearly a thought in their minds that was something they wanted to do. But I think these are guys that you build around and can build a program around moving forward. And with EJ, one of my all-time favorite Huskers, and I don't think that's an exaggeration.
I'm with you.
More so, I mean, obviously what he's doing on the field, but you talk about just an outstanding young man, phenomenal. And I'm really, really glad he's going to finish his career as a Husker.
Hey, so lastly, Ravi and I talk about Chiefs fans all the time. We talk about winning close games. He asked a great question the other day to one of our national guys, Russell Baxter, about is it smoke and mirrors or is this just the championship DNA? And Russell was like, oh, if it's smoke and mirrors, they've smoked a lot of mirrors. the joy of I finally got to watch you watch a Chiefs game in all its glory.
Yeah.
Is that the norm? Because you got to walk kind of our listeners quickly through what that was like against our producers Raiders a couple of weeks ago.
Well, to be honest with you, I don't really know what I said in the last 30 minutes of our show because that's when kickoff was. I was really hoping you just kind of take the bull by the horns and run with it, and you did a pretty good job, if I'm being honest. But it was so funny watching it with watch games with non-Chiefs fans. But to have you and Keith basically undress Lane and I for our feelings about the game and how absolutely we're being about every snap of the football game. And believe me, I'm not naive. I get it. I understand. I'm pretentious and snobby when it comes to Chiefs football. But how could you not be at this point? Like the way that they win games, it's just – and I even put a tweet out about it. I don't tweet about the Chiefs hardly ever. Last week after the doink for the division, I get it. Like, if you're not a Chiefs fan, I 100% understand your apathy to that franchise, but I also don't care because I enjoy it.
No, you're exactly right.
I just couldn't believe how you were living and dying with every – I mean, and Lane was right there with you, and I'm like, you guys always win these games. What's the big deal?
Well, doesn't it feel good? Like, by the way, you think that's bad? You should see me in the playoffs. Like, my wife had to leave the house during the AFC Championship game last year. She's like, I'm not doing it, and I'm not subjecting our kids to that kind of language. So we're out. I'm like, fair. That's fine. But yeah, it's just the way that it is. And now to know that, you know, you've got to win 3 of your next 4, hopefully 2 of your next 4 if Buffalo loses to Detroit this weekend to get home field. You know, that it's going to ratchet it up a few degrees.
Oh, my man.
Benny Mac, as much as I love Andy Reid, as a team that's lost to your Chiefs twice in the Super Bowl, I'm kind of over your stuff. I'm just going to be honest with you.
Hey, I respect it. You got it. You know, I would be in the same way, and I was the same way for the Patriots for a long time. But you need to find a way to get your boy Garendo to play tonight. My fantasy hopes are dwindling. Waiver wire scraping, so I need that dude to play.
They'll win tonight. He'll play.
I mean, he might play, but I'm not sure anybody else is going to. So we'll see what happens.
Hey, he needs to get his. That's all I got to say.
All right, B-Mac. See you soon, buddy.
We appreciate it.
Thanks, boys. Appreciate it. Have a good one.
That's Ben McLaughlin from the Husker Sports Network. We talked a lot of Huskers there, obviously.
He's got a lot of range.
He does. He's a fun guy to talk to. I told you, I know his sister-in-law.
Yeah, it was so random.
Yeah,
he is
small world.
Hilarious.
Yeah, we love Benny Mac. We need to have him on more.
I can't.
And the Chiefs talk.
It's not really safe for radio because he'll say anything, and I just laugh.
Which is very much different than how the show normally is.
His one-liners.
No, he's funny. Maybe I should call him next time you're gone.
Just be on the road with us. He's nuts.
I'll go on a roadie with you guys.
His daughters, his kids are hilarious. Yeah, he's a funny dude.
Maybe I'll get Benny Mac to fill in next time you're gone. That would be fun. That's DB. I'm
Taking
Ravi.
me out the door.
Well, I mean, it's what? You're never going to be gone again? You did really? We'll be back. More Hurrdat Sports Radio. We're back here on Hurrdat Sports Radio, AM 590, ESPN Omaha, ESPN Tri-Cities. We're live on Twitter, Facebook, YouTube. That's DB. I'm Ravi Lulla here on the Pillar Exterior stage. Appreciate our guy, Benny Mac.
Yeah, Shane's a big fan.
He's a funny guy. We love Benny Mac.
Yeah, you have no idea.
No, I don't really, but I still enjoy him. Fun to talk to.
So, normally like cuss words and stuff can make me a little uncomfortable. Even though I've heard it my whole life, locker rooms, coaches. His timely use of profanity is flat out hilarious.
Yeah.
Just making up combinations and
it's true. There is a thing that I find really enjoyable, obviously, when we're off air, and that's trying to find the right combination of words that you won't say that you think is really funny.
Yeah.
Because
you found the one.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, I think that word is hilarious.
Yeah, you love that one.
I would love is a little strong.
You love it. It's your favorite.
He just knows me so well. It's like He can just, I don't know.
Because he's the Hornets fan, right? That's why I
Yes.
asked him about LaMelo.
Yes.
Yeah.
And it's all random NBA.
Is he the guy that I asked about Chino Hills?
Yep.
That's what I thought. I couldn't remember.
Yeah. I'm telling you, his range is hilarious.
No, he's a funny dude. We love Benny
Loyal
Mac.
guy, super protective.
Yeah.
Yeah, he reps the brand.
We'll talk to him again soon because before you know it, we'll have some baseball coming up.
I know. Our listening audience seems to like B-Mac.
They like, let's be honest, they like anybody that gives you a hard time.
And he was relatively light this time.
He was pretty nice to you today.
I was truly shocked how intense he and Lane were watching the Chiefs.
Yeah,
I did. But the Chiefs strike me as this blue collar fan base. But people that aren't Chiefs fans hate Chiefs fans.
They do not strike me as a blue collar
They don't?
fan. Like the old school Chiefs fans, yes.
They're kind of a blue collar fan base, aren't they?
I think the old school ones are. The ones that have suffered. The ones that have been through the like the Elvis Gerback years. Like the Steve Bono years.
Those were some pretty good years.
Raider fan over here who hates the Chiefs.
The Todd Blackledge years.
Oh man, it was just a doozy.
The pre-Andy Reid Chiefs
Christian
fans.
Yeah.
I mean, he had peak. I mean, it was so crisp on his monitor. And I told you, he knows he can do anything.
Where's Christian Okoye from, Shane?
Electronics.
Do you know?
Nigeria.
Yeah, it's his nickname. Yeah. Nigerian Nightmare.
Yeah. Well, I don't know. Was there a Wakanda reference in there? Wakanda's not a real place.
I was just wondering if he maybe understood some of the languages in Black Panther.
Great.
They're real African languages. It's like, you know how Slumdog Millionaire is...
That's just not going to go away, is it?
No. You know how Slumdog Millionaire is not a real... Those aren't real people?
Yes.
Like, based on true story-ish. But, like that's a fictional story. But they speak real languages, not Indian, but they speak real languages in that movie. That's kind of how Black Panther is. Like, I get that Wakanda's not real. And, King T'Challa is made up. As is his father, King T'Chaka. But they are speaking in certain portions of the movie real African languages.
That's cute.
I'm just,
It's cute.
Some things in movies are real. Like, I know in Lord of the Rings, you're a big Lord of the Rings guy, right?
Yeah.
So, like, they made up Elvish. That one's not real. But a lot of languages in movies are based on real languages. Just like it's pleasant.
I asked a simple question. Do you understand anything he's saying? That was it.
Gulab Jamun.
That was it.
Hemoglobin.
And you just go all in.
I don't know what happened. I'm just out here having a good time. Just out here being friends,
Oh.
I wouldn't worry too much about it. We do but no, I would not classify the Mahomes era Chiefs fans as blue collar. That's not the vibe that I get.
Yeah, they're very intense.
I'd go old school though. I'll give you old school. They might be a little more like I think of Raiders fans as blue collar. Like that, especially like the Oakland era Raiders fans. There's probably going to be a line in the sand with like Vegas Raiders fans versus the old school, kind of like we have here with Andy Reid. That's how I would distinguish it.
Got it.
Does that make sense to you?
It does. I'm glad you got your shots in.
I have rules for almost everything, DB. I don't know why.
I'm shocked.
It's the way my brain works.
Very principled.
I just start thinking about things. I'm like, okay, this makes more sense if I have rules to govern this thing. So I come up with my very own stringent rules that are not important to anyone else, but it's how things need to be.
Like St. Louis Jordan, those guys don't strike you as blue collar?
I don't know those people.
What about Les
Vogler?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Although, yes and no.
Why?
Well, because he's probably...
because he has means, doesn't
I was saying, because I think he might be like the third richest person I know.
You don't know that.
I'm guessing. I'm ballparking.
What would give you that inkling?
I think he does pretty well.
Because he gives away Wagyu meat.
I think he does pretty well. I don't know. I know that I know that some people think I'm in the BS business. He's in a different BS business, and I know business is pretty good.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So I'm gonna just make some assumptions there.
That's classic.
Not that I rank people's wealth in my heads of people I know. He's somewhere between 3 and 7. I'm not sure. Let's get to our next guest. He's the executive director for the Bad Boy Mowers Pinstripe Bowl. It's Mark Holtzman. Mark, how are you this morning?
Great. How you guys doing?
Good, Mark. We are very, very good. As part of the radio broadcast team headed there with the team, I am extremely excited, man. So I appreciate you giving us a few minutes.
That's great. And so is all of New York. We're excited to have you guys.
Well, that's interesting because if that's the case, I think that could be a pretty good marriage because I think Nebraska fans and Nebraska in general will be very I think we'll be very appreciative of the hospitality as Nebraska Nice goes.
Well, we try and make the game very special. We've been doing this game now for about 13, 14 years. A lot of people said, a bowl in New York might not work around Christmas, but we've proven otherwise. You get to see a lot of the special sites around New York. We take the players all over, and New York, they've done movies and written books around New York around Christmas time with the tree at Rockefeller Center, et cetera, et cetera. And we're just hoping that look, you guys, you sell out every game for God knows how many years. And I just hope that, everyone realizes that there are a lot of ways to travel here. I mean, I know we're a big city and New York is not the cheapest city in the country, but at the same time, there are a lot of ways, there are a lot of airports to travel to so you can shop your airfare. There are a lot of hotels outside New York City that are actually closer to Yankee Stadium than the hotels in New York City. I mean, you can go right over the George Washington Bridge here in New Jersey, and you can stay at a reasonable hotel for very reasonable money, no more than what you'd have to pay in another market. So I hope everyone realizes that and embraces this opportunity. I know you guys haven't been to a bowl game in a while, and this is the media capital of the world, and what better place to re-enter the bowl business than in New York at Yankee Stadium, where we just had a World Series, even though we didn't win.
Mark, you mentioned kind of the sellouts and the reputation of Nebraska's fan base. How much did that have to do with the selection of Nebraska for the Pinstripe Bowl?
No, it definitely has to do with the selection because, I mean, you have some alumni within this radius here, but not that many. So we really need a school that wants to travel to New York to watch their team play in a game because especially here we're on ABC television at noon. You don't want an empty stadium. That doesn't look too good. That's not too good an optic. And obviously the world's changed a little bit with the portals and everything, and you want to make sure you have a school where the players are going to show up, number one, and number two, the fans are going to show up.
So, Mark, as you're kind of looking at this with the two head coaches and Coach O'Brien and Coach Rule, guys that are very familiar with one another, how cool of a dynamic does that play, knowing that those guys will play pretty nice with each other?
Well, it's interesting you say that because I did the press conference 2 days ago. The Yes Network has national carriage, so I'm sure that a bunch of people in Nebraska saw the press conference.
Yep.
And it just felt right. I mean, sometimes it's a little bit of a stretch bringing some of these coaches and programs here. But, Coach Rules, grew up, 10 minutes from Yankee Stadium, 15 minutes from Yankee Stadium. He has family here. It felt right with him. It didn't feel like it was a stretch at all. He was telling it how he has some players on the team from this area, and how he was telling everyone what to expect here. And Coach O'Brien, he's an East Coast guy. I mean, and he's very familiar with this area, has coached here many times. Obviously, both of them are close friends, having both coached in the National Football League. So it just felt right.
That's Mark Holtzman, Executive Director of the Bad Boy Mowers Pinstripe Bowl. Mark, we appreciate your time and hope we have a great bowl game.
Great. Please, everyone, come on out. Great tickets are still available, either directly through Nebraska or www.pinstripeball.com. And we hope to see a sea of red out here in a few weeks.
I appreciate it, Mark. Looking forward to meeting you.
Thank you. Take care. Bye-bye.
We'll be back with Brian Edwards. More Hurrdat Sports Radio coming up next. Welcome back to wrap-up hour number 2 here on Hurrdat Sports Radio, AM 590, ESPN Omaha, ESPN Tri-Cities. That's DB. I'm Ravi Lulla. We're joined now by our Vegas insider, Brian Edwards from Major Wager. What's going on, B?
I can't hear. Oh, I can hear you.
We can hear you. Can you hear us?
I can't hear. Can you hear us?
I don't think he's got us.
I can't hear.
I'll just give him a call.
All right.
Wait, I think he might figure it out.
I can't hear.
Oh, no, he can't hear at all. We can hear him.
All right, let's give him a call, Shane.
Gotcha.
That one I don't think is on B. I'm not going to hang that one on him. I think that's us.
Wow, why are you always trying to bust roll my man? Shane?
No, I'm not saying it's Shane's fault. It might be like a StreamYard issue. We've had some technology issues this week. I don't think that's a Shane issue. That's just trying to absolve B. Edwards of, because every once in a while he has a little trouble with the mute button.
Yeah.
I don't think that was his problem this time, though. I think that one might be on us.
Huh. That's on you more than anything.
On me?
Yeah.
I'm the one that wants him on the phone every time. You're the one like, we have to see Brian's face. We need it.
Is that how I talk?
Yes.
Was that Wakandan?
No, it's Elvish.
I love how you got the whole group chat going, too. That's cute. It's really cute. I think it's pretty stupid.
Apparently, J.R.R. Tolkien came up with the Elvish language before he even wrote the books. There's a lot of lore around those. I don't know if you know this. There's a new movie coming out. The War of the Rohirrim?
Yeah.
Rohirrim? I don't know how you say it.
Cartoon, too. So
I know.
I'll be watching.
That's where I'm a little struggling. I don't love cartoons, but I do love Lord of the Rings.
Get over it.
I'll probably watch it. I ended up doing the Clone Wars thing with Star Wars, so I'll probably do the
Take one
animated.
for the team.
Yeah.
We got Brian here.
I'll bite that bullet. Brian Edwards, what's going on, buddy?
I got a bullet, all right.
What's happening, gentlemen? How we doing?
We're just trying to make it. I apologize for our audio issues, man. It's not as much fun when I can't see your funny expressions.
And what was the line last week? Looking at the computer like it's very, very small font.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a pretty good memory. I kind of just slid that in, man. It was like I just love to.
I mean, don't give DB. Don't let DB give you any issues about squinting. Like you should watch this guy trying to read stuff. It's unbelievable.
Now, it cracked me up. I think I was squinting at the moment he said it.
You would think everything on his computer is written in Greek the way he's just staring at it like, what is that?
Some days my vision isn't as sharp as others. He's on a roll this week, just hammering me, B. So it's fine. Like I'm letting him vent and get it all out for the holidays, so he can finally figure out to go from Grinch to good. It's okay.
I'm just saying the Grinch had some points. Grinch had some points.
We've got this is a heck of a week. Are you okay with the double dipping twice? And with the NFL going back to back, apparently all the good games are in the afternoon.
Wait, say that again now?
Just the double headers and all the good games being in the later time slot.
Yeah, we couldn't put any good games at noon. It was illegal. What happened?
Oh yeah. Well, yeah, I'm okay with that. Although, like, I feel like I was a little less motivated because I go to the bar just so I can have like every game, around me. And I feel like I was a little less motivated last week until Jameis threw that touchdown pass because I don't know if I told you guys, I'm not in the circa millions, not that Survivor contest. I'm in my own Survivor contest local guys got me in. 552 entries. I'm one of 11 left. I had Pittsburgh last week. I have till tonight's kickoff to decide on this week. I'm either gonna do the Vikings at home to the Bears. I still have the Ravens, but I'm kind of wanting to save them, if the contest lasts to the last week because they host Cleveland. Or wait, is it Cleveland they host that week? I think it's Cleveland they host that. It's the last weekend of the year where I could use the Ravens. They're at home. And, a normal year I would be thinking, well, they'll rest starters, but they're not going to be able to rest starters this year. They're barely in the playoffs as is. So probably going to be the Vikings this week.
B, speaking of the NFL, we've got We do have some very quality matchups just, at the 3 o'clock time slot. One of them is the Bills and the Lions. The Lions are -2.5. How you feeling about the Bills and Lions with the Bills coming off that loss?
Yeah, I love the Lions here. It was a push last week, but I also did their team totals over and first half. And so, I mean, it was still a profit for me. I pushed on the game, having -3 and 3-point win over the Packers. But, I mean, I think I've said it before on this show. I would take Detroit -3 or fewer at home against anybody in the league. And so I will live up to that here. And it's a tough spot for Buffalo. They were out west against the Rams, into Sunday night and probably didn't get back to upstate New York till way past midnight into Monday morning, whereas Detroit's been resting since Thursday. But I would like Detroit regardless. Give me the Lions.
Hey, this next team is interesting because it always seems like this is totally anecdotal, so you could tell me to go fly a kite, but it seems like the Commanders would be good ATS. Is it been a hard team for Vegas to get right? Because I'm looking at this line again, and it appears to be off, right? 7.5. It seems too light. Is Vegas one of those or are the Commanders one of those teams that you've been able to take advantage of?
Well, so I had them every week. I didn't have them week 1 when they lost to Tampa Bay. I had them every week from week 2 until they lost a third in a row against Dallas. But, the loss at Philly, they had the lead in the fourth quarter. The loss to the Steelers, there are like 4 different plays where they could have won that game. And, the Cowboys was just a bad pick on my part. So I think I was 7-3-1 backing them. I had 7 winners in a push in a row, and then I had 3 losers in a row, and then I didn't take them against the Titans when they were up like 28-0 mid-second quarter, and now they've had a week off. But I'm back on them. I guess it's going to be Jake Haener. I don't know if they announced whether it's going to be Spencer Rattler or Jake Haener. Doesn't matter to me. Love Washington. I got it at 7. I'd buy the half point from 7.5 to 7. Just, inexperienced at QB for the Saints, and I think Washington's ready to roll after the open day.
B, jumping ahead to some college football lines that we're looking ahead to for next week. Currently, Clemson is an 11-point dog to Texas, but which shade of orange are you liking in that one?
I'm going to go Clemson. I made Texas 7.5 in that game. Texas is only 2-4 against the spread. Their last 6 is a double-digit favorite. Clemson's got a little momentum. Obviously, they lost to South Carolina. I think they're the only 3-loss team in the playoffs. But they could have beaten South Carolina, and I'm sure that Dabo and those players are relishing this underdog role. And I'm not acting like I know the weather forecast for Austin, Texas, 9 or 10 days out, but I'm doubting they're going to have to be dealing with the cold weather that SMU and Tennessee have to deal with going up north. So I'll go Clemson plus 11.
So, B, when you're looking at the seedings, kind of how much attention did you pay to where the games were being played? Because now you may have to kind of factor in weather to some degree.
Yeah, you got to do a lot with SMU going up to Penn State, and it gets cold in East Tennessee as well, but I'm sure it's going to be way colder up at the Horseshoe. I'm still leaning balls, though, on that one. I haven't played it yet. And as for SMU Penn State, I'm not really sure where I'm at. I made the line, hold on here, I think I made it 8.5, and what was it last week?
Said 9, last I've got.
8, yeah. So I think it's a pretty good line. I'm not sure what I'm going to do with those games, but yes, you have to factor into weather for sure. But I don't know if you guys have seen the hypotheticals, but I tell you what, if the Georgia Notre Dame game comes to fruition, and I don't have a FanDuel account, so I can't bet it now, but Notre Dame's a 1.5-point favorite to Georgia if that matchup materializes, and wow. I believe that one is in New Orleans. So I would say location advantage. Yeah, it is in New Orleans. I'd say location advantage Georgia, and I don't care if Carson backs out. I would absolutely love Georgia as an underdog to Notre Dame, but I can't bet it right now. If you have a FanDuel account and agree with my thoughts there, I would bet it right this second because I would think, or I don't know, it depends on how well Notre Dame plays against Indiana and if Carson Beck's healthy or not, but I just can't imagine that really being the number once that matchup comes to fruition, if it comes to fruition.
Dude, let me go back to the NFL because I think quietly it's one of the better games with Tampa Bay and the Chargers. Tampa Bay can score on anyone. The Chargers D you up. What do you think gives here?
I got to go Chargers -3 at home. I know Herbert's banged up, but man, if he can walk, he plays pretty much all the time.
Yeah, he's tough.
Tampa Bay's won 3 in a row, but they were over the Raiders, Giants, and Panthers, who have a combined record of 7-32. Now, I know the Panthers are playing a lot better right now, 5 straight spread covers. But, Chargers at home, -3 or less to most, not every team in the league, like I say with the Lions, but to a lot of teams in the league, and Tampa Bay would be one. Give me the Chargers -3.
That's our guy, Brian Edwards, MajorWager.com, our Vegas insider. B, I'm sorry we didn't get to see your bright, shining face for very long today, but I appreciate you joining us.
Thanks, John.
And as always, long live Billy Napier. We appreciate it, B. Coming up next, we got Michael Bruntz, Husker 24/7.
Oh.
We're back here on Hurrdat Sports Radio, AM 590, ESPN Omaha, ESPN Tri-Cities, KFOR in Lincoln. That's DB. I'm Ravi Lulla here on the Pillar Exterior stage. We are efforting our guy Michael Bruntz as we speak. Hopefully he'll be joining us here in a minute, and hopefully on Sunday you'll be joining Nebraska Public Media as they bring you Nebraska women's basketball versus Chattanooga. That is a noon tip-off Central Time on Nebraska Public Media. Make sure you check it out. We've got to talk a little Nebraska men's hoop with Benny McLaughlin earlier. Hopefully when we get Bruntz here in a second, I'm sure he's got some versatility. Might talk a little hoops, might talk a little
range.
Might talk a little Broncos.
I just want to hear him say Berkey, Bjorktensil.
How'd I do? That's
pretty good.
I think I got it.
Bjorktensil.
Yeah. I'm not bad with the name pronunciations. I'm not good at a lot of other stuff, but I usually am in the neighborhood on a name. Depends on what part of the country they're from. I have more expertise than others. No, actually, in one of the jobs that I had, I know what you want to say. I'm going to go there for you so you don't have to. In one of the jobs that I had in a previous life, we had a lot of people we had to speak to that were from my father's neck of the woods. And they made similar assumptions to you, where they would go, hey, Ravi, can you help me out on this pronunciation? And I was like, no, not really. No, actually, I was pretty good at it, but
I got a guy that can help you out.
He can. Our bright friend, our big brain friend, Michael Bruntz from Husker 24/7. What's going on, Bruntsy?
Not much. How you guys doing?
We're doing great.
Hi, Michael. How are you?
Not bad. Not bad. Cold.
Yeah,
very cold.
It is it's a little deceptive, right? It's colder than it looks outside. That's for sure.
It looks pretty cold. It's gray and it's December.
Yeah, but when you don't see like branches and trees swaying, and you don't like, it's colder than you think with no wind.
Yes.
Right, Bruntz, is that?
That's a good description. Yes.
Thank you. Ravi won't go for it because, of course, that big brain of his won't allow him.
I agree with you all the time, DB. Bruntz, would you agree?
Oh Lord.
That getting Keona Davis back out of the portal is a big deal?
Big deal. Yes, I agree.
Bigger deal.
I see what kind of mood you're in. Okay, here we go.
Thought he might elaborate there a bit. I get it.
Oh,
I get it wasn't an A+ question, Bruntzy. I thought you might help me out.
Oh, Lord.
Mustang to Mustang. I thought you might throw me a bone there.
I'm just telling you, Bruntzy, he's been on a tear this whole week, so nobody's safe.
I've seen the clips. I'm going to tread carefully here. I was just watching that first pitch. I wasn't going up there swinging. So I think, no, it's a big deal. And
I think when you, I don't know, like, I don't know if you guys are the same. I've shared this with Damon, I think, off air. But as things have kind of gone along, with each defensive lineman that's hit the portal, you're kind of doing like that mental, or at least I was, the kind of like mental depth chart of what a Nebraska defensive line is going to look like in New York City.
Yeah.
And it was getting a little bit rough, a little bit sparse, especially with some of the younger guys for next year. So it's a big deal because I think he was somebody that, I'm trying to think when it really kind of started to pop a little bit. Maybe like start of November, like right after the bye.
That's safe.
Even where he was more, he was in there more than some of the veteran guys that are now in the portal looking for new homes. So it was only a total of like 90 snaps, I think, is what Pro Football Focus had him for the year. But just in terms of like, you kind of want that freshman trajectory for a guy to kind of start clicking and figuring it out a little bit in November. And it seemed like that was kind of the track that he was on. And, he's got a Big Ten body. You could see where with another, a true off season where, he could add, 20 pounds of good weight and be, somebody that can be like a, 20, 30 snap guy next year. So that was a big, I don't know if what are we calling those, saves?
Retention?
Yeah, that's good. That was a good retention piece for Nebraska.
So was Emmett a hold or?
I don't know.
He never actually made it to the portal.
I think he was a hold opportunity.
You can't lose what was never in the portal, right?
Yeah.
Is that how that saying goes?
So the cool thing, though, and I mean this just because I'm a huge EJ guy personally, and I know a little bit of the backstory with Keona Davis, right? I know his parents just got to Lincoln, and that whole thing was kind of awkward in terms of how it came about. But to land the plane, we're talking about guys that it's not necessarily about money. It's about assurances that you're kind of for me going forward. Like, you value me, I'm in the deal. How much of that is a sentiment you think Nebraska can grow and win with, especially as it seems like that's what they're gravitating towards on the recruiting trail as well?
Yeah, I mean, I think that kind of an attitude, is how if you're Matt Rule, you're going to have that kind of developmental program that you want in an age where everybody's moving. You know what I mean? So, I think getting those guys back are with that kind of a mindset are really important, and you can build around those guys because if we're basically just going to have annual free agency in college football, if guys feel good about what you're doing and valued, I mean, it's kind of talking through it. It's almost kind of like you don't want to use the word, but it's like almost like making sure that like employees are valued. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, yeah. And again, that's not what we're talking about here, but
yeah, sure.
Yeah.
Technically.
So, but I mean I think that's an important, for some guys, that's a pretty important part of the conversation too. And I don't know, my sense of Keona, and I might be speaking out of school here, but I think he's a Western United States guy. He was recruited by Tony White, coached by Terrence Knight. You probably just needed to make sure that everybody was on the same page given the movement that's taken place over the last couple of weeks.
So let's talk movement, Bruntz. You're pretty pragmatic, so maybe this doesn't move your needle, but were you surprised that there was kind of this open effort from former staff to grab guys to go with them?
Well, yeah. I mean, I guess kind of given how it happened coming here, that that played out a little bit differently, I think. I don't know. I mean, I'll also be kind of curious to see kind of where everybody ends up when the dust settles.
That's what they better be careful of, because I'm with you on that.
Because it's not my sense that it's everybody that's entered the portal is going to necessarily go to the same place. Like, I think
100%.
I think there's some some people that will probably end up where you expect them to end up, in North Florida, but. I also think there's going to be a lot of guys that were part of that crew that went into the portal that are going to be playing their college football next year elsewhere, just because I don't know. I mean, it's not, everybody's got the 105 problem, right? Like, you can't just take a huge group of guys into a school like that, especially one where they did sign some defensive linemen and that's the reality is that, you can probably take a couple of them, but I don't think it's going to be this mass exodus straight to one place.
Bruntz, you mentioned the defensive line depth for the bowl game and that doing sort of a mental depth chart on that. What's your level of concern for the defensive line depth next season? Or is it hey, you kind of need to wait and see, obviously, what happens in the portal? But I guess I'm asking, how important is it to you that they do get some players in that group from the portal?
Oh, it's important. I mean, it's really important. When you we've seen what a defense the last couple of years can look like when you have old guys up front. I mean, I think that's the recipe that Nebraska used the last couple of years. I think is a pretty good one along the defensive line. I mean, kind of the mix of pieces, having just a big, 23-year-old big-ass Ty Robinson in the middle. You've seen the benefits of that. I mean, I don't know if there's that type of player in the portal right now, but I mean, that's one area, on a roster where I think you need to have a pretty nice mix of old guys and developmental guys. And that's why, also just getting Keanu Davis back is so big, because I think he was one of the guys that you would point to and say, like, okay, this is kind of the youngish next guy up type player. And now I think you just need to backfill a little bit with guys who are, 1 year kind of mercenary types or even 2 year guys to kind of, try to give you help right now, because Nebraska's going to need it. I mean, you need a solid two deep in the Big Ten to be able to function well as a defense. And we've seen the good and the bad of that at Nebraska in past years, where if you don't have the depth or you're relying on just one or two guys to do everything for you, you're going to have a really rough season, and it's going to be really tough for you when November rolls around.
Bruntz, maybe this isn't super novel, but I'm curious to get your thoughts. It's kind of like this little bit of consternation over kind of the naming of coordinators and who was available and just the reaction. And I kind of likened it to this, and this is in my own head, because I was trying to explain to Ravi and our listening audience kind of what I felt like Snow could do for Butler if you had doubts on his ability to immediately relate to young people as a coordinator. And the example that I would use today is like a sandwich, right? If you like if you like your veggies at, this place, and I like the meat from this place, and Ravi likes the cheese from this place, but nobody's like the overall great sandwich maker. Could you see Nebraska putting their staff together like that, where you may not have the ideal sandwich place, but you can get the best ingredients from each of the said restaurants?
Let me wrap my head around this metaphor here. So,
well, you get the aptitude and the versatility of scheme with Butler. You get kind of the cohesiveness and the Snow's not a he doesn't blank. He's a good communicator. You get the youthful exuberance of Dvorak. You get, you know what I mean? It's just like,
no, I get it. Well, and that's the with the change in rules too. Like it feels like staffs are going to be put together differently than maybe what they have been in the past.
Yeah.
Right. Like
Yep.
you don't necessarily need your coordinator to be a lights out dynamic recruiter all the time. I mean, you'll take that if you can get it, but I mean, you have other guys on staff that can do that kind of thing. I mean, I think you can hire assistant coaches that are a little bit more of with more of an eye to the kind of like being able to relate to players in a different way versus maybe a different kind of strength. The other thing too, I mean, this defensive staff is not done. Like there's still things being done there, but when the stuff came out the other day, the addition of Phil Snow was probably the one that I was most intrigued by and kind of how that was going to function, because you have the title of associate head coach, but you've got somebody that's done this for a long time in the room, being part of those discussions. I mean, I'm imagining it being a little bit more of a collaborative effort on that side of the ball. And I think that's okay. I mean, obviously John Butler's got tons of experience. He doesn't have a ton of coordinating experience, and that's where you can have the strengths, I guess, or the different pieces of the sandwich to make that work. So I don't know. I mean, I think it's really important though that people really kind of understand though that this how novel this rule change was last year. I mean, you've got guys on staff that could go out and recruit and have ties to certain areas. Jamar Mosey, Keith Williams. I mean, that getting those guys to be able to go on the road for you while you have very veteran coordinators and assistant coaches kind of back, scheming and working on the X's and O's piece of it. I mean, it's almost, a lot more specialized than, what it's ever been in college football that way.
We're talking with Michael Bruntz, Husker 24/7. Bruntz, obviously we've been talking about the defensive staff a lot. One of the guys that has kind of gone under the radar a little bit because of all the talk about John Butler is the defensive line coach hire from the Kansas City Chiefs in Braden. How has that moved the needle for you?
I'm intrigued. It's a little bit out of the past kind of assistant hiring playbook that Matt Rule's done, with a little bit more experience. I mean, from talking to people in South Florida, I mean, he's a well-known name down there for a long time, has been seen as a rising star in the industry. And I don't know, I mean, as much as I hate to, admit this or say this out loud, I think there's probably a little bit of a magic right now to having the Kansas City Chiefs on your resume. So,
and it's got to be tough for the Bronco fan.
Yeah, it's hard. It sucks a lot. But I mean that when you talk about like this is as far as I'm going to go with this. But I mean, when you talk about franchises recently that seem to have kind of figured out how to do things at a high level, I mean, there's not many that are doing it higher than they are. So, I'm eager to kind of see, what he can do recruiting wise. Kind of going back to the question earlier about the defensive line. I mean, that group is going to need to be restocked and developed in a pretty significant way. So there's a lot of work to do there, but from what, just asking around about him and things like that, I mean, I think there's a lot of excitement in the right places about that hire and kind of what he can do potentially for Nebraska.
Bruntz, how much of your experience, especially your recollection because of your memory, but I mean, you remember the whole Knighton thing and, is he going to be a position coach? I thought he was going to be an analyst and, will the 3-3-5 work defensively and then the hand wringing and, we just totally glossed over that now we have an outside linebackers coach in addition to Dvorak, but because we like Simpson, we didn't parse through that really. It's just like, oh, he's on staff, don't care what he does. Does your experience just allow you to ride the wave of all the kind of the feedback and knee-jerk reactions because you understand so well that it's just you just have to wait it out?
Yeah, I mean, and that's what I meant earlier. I mean, you know, they're not done hiring, and just kind of the fact that you don't just have 10 set on-field assistant coaches anymore. It gives you a lot of flexibility to bring guys on and kind of have them handle different roles. I mean, it's, you know, Nebraska last year had a guy, you know, in Jack Potenza coaching Jacks that they trusted a lot. And you know, this feels like a little bit of a fill-in there. I mean, and then it's kind of like, okay, well, is he an analyst? Is he a coach? Like, you know, what are we calling these guys? You know, there's a lot of fluidity there now. And so, you know, yeah, I want to see, you know, if what a defensive backs hire looks like, and you know what else they potentially add as you know the analysts go, because they had some defensive analysts leave with Tony White, or leave at the same time as Tony White, I guess. So that kind of needs to shake out a little bit. But you know, I don't get as largely kind of hamstrung over roles and titles now as what it used to be. I mean, the thing that's important now are, you know, who are your 10 assistant coaches that you're sending out on the road, and that's kind of a bigger piece of it to me almost than you know, what if a guy's going to be an analyst or whatever. So we'll see how it shakes out. You know, we also haven't heard from Matt Rule yet in kind of what his vision looks like on that side of the ball, because, you know, the last time we heard from him, it was, you know, we're talking a lot of Power 4 coordinators and all this other stuff, and all of a sudden the dust has very quickly settled, and you've got kind of the structure, I guess, of a defensive staff. So we'll see what he says today, but I think you probably want the whole picture before you kind of start really taking a look at what this is going to look like and how it might function.
Bruntz, you mentioned a couple times you don't think they're done hiring. You mentioned defensive backs coach. Is there anywhere else you think they might be, that you'd be looking to add some help if you were putting the staff together or continuing to put the staff together?
I don't know. I mean, and I guess that's why, like, you know, titles are kind of what they are. I mean, I don't know if you're able to bring somebody in as, you know, more of an analyst and you kind of figure out what their role is. I'm kind of curious to see if they do anything there. I mean, it's you know, the Matt Rule coaching tree is actually, you know, I think a little bit bigger than what people realize for a coach that's, you know, just turning 50. So
it's huge.
Yeah. And so
plus he's well liked.
Yeah. Well, and not only that, but I mean, you've got an offensive coordinator who has been a head coach at multiple places, who has his connections and his guys that have been various places that are possibilities. And so, you know, I think there's, you know, there's going to be a pretty hard look at where they can get help. I mean, we haven't really talked much about special teams and if, you know, what's going to happen there, if there's any changes coming there. So I think I don't think the carousel is done spinning yet. And you know, we're 2 weeks into December here, and there's a lot of time before spring ball. So I would definitely not think that they're done with you know, making hires. And also, I mean, there's also openings elsewhere and guys potentially looking to move on as well. So there's a lot of work to be done there.
Yeah, I just get the sense, Bruntz, I can narrow it down to like a handful of states, somebody within the 500-mile radius, somebody with Florida connections, and somebody with Texas connections, right? They're starting to establish where they want to recruit. So I would imagine that the guys that they were potentially thinking about bringing would have something to do with one of those three things.
Yeah, no, and it's interesting though, like where in Texas too, right? Like,
oh yeah, yeah.
With some of the
East Texas is different than Dallas, is different than Houston.
Certainly different than West Texas.
Yeah. Well, And I mean, and you've got programs in that state now too, like SMU, that are recruiting with their elbows out and their checkbooks open. So I think there is a little bit of a recalibrating of maybe where Nebraska is choosing to focus recruiting wise right now.
I'm stunned that SMU is recruiting with their checkbook open.
Legally now.
As far as we know, there are some things that are still not legal. We know this. Bruntz, we appreciate the time as always. We'll talk to you soon.
Yeah, take care, guys.
We've got more Hurrdat Sports Radio coming up next. Welcome back, Hurrdat Sports Radio, AM 590, ESPN Omaha, ESPN Tri-Cities, KFOR in Lincoln. That's DB. I'm Ravi Lulla here at Hurrdat Sports Bar and Grill. It's time for a Bet On It, brought to you by Warhorse Sportsbook. The bet's placed in Nebraska to place your sports bets, whether you're in Lincoln or Omaha. Head out to the Warhorse Casino to check out their sportsbook. D. Bizzle,
what do you want this time?
I want to talk about some stuff you want to bet on.
Yeah. But still,
you have any...
and I'll bet you that you lose.
You have any games that you feel good about yet?
Oh, yeah, lock it up.
What do we got?
Lock it up.
What are we locking up?
Just going to give you the one.
Just one today?
I'll probably,
you might dabble.
It's early.
Okay.
So I always need key indicators.
Okay.
And you'll love this one. Lock it up.
Niners?
San Francisco 49ers and the 2.5.
I saw a stat.
Listen, lock it up.
I think our guy Husker X's and O's sent it to us. Teams coming off of scoring 40 points when they are an underdog the next week are 7-18 against the spread in their last 25.
Lock it up.
So we're locking up the 49ers. I'm probably not going to pay that one because I don't like betting on teams that I like.
That's fine.
That's just a personal preference.
I'll watch.
It's too much stress for me.
The whole voyeur in me. Plus, I'll be out of speaking engagement.
Yeah, you got to watch a little.
I don't even know what time that starts.
You should find that out.
It's not super far from me. It's in Platteview.
Yeah.
I've done it the last 2 years.
But if you're going to, you should probably figure out what time that is.
A lot of people that grill a lot of pieces of meat and have baked potatoes.
Yeah?
Yes.
Big baked potato guy?
They do a lot of auctions.
I don't really like baked potatoes.
I don't eat.
Yeah, that's true. You never eat in public.
They'll put a couple of pieces.
Put a plate together for you.
Although my appetite, man.
Yeah, you got to figure that out.
I'm getting some help currently as we speak.
Might need to go to just don't WebMD it. You'll think you got something.
Yeah, that's what Brett said too. He's like, don't WebMD.
You end up thinking you got.
I was like, that's all right. I know someone. I'll go right to the source.
You can load down the baked potato with bacon. I know you like bacon.
Yeah, I don't like baked potatoes.
I don't either. It's one of my lowest forms of potatoes. I know we were talking about
Although
this.
I do enjoy a nice twice baked potato, but I like mashed potatoes.
Mashed potatoes are okay.
I think they're fire.
The mashed and baked potatoes are pretty low on my potato rankings.
Too much potato?
Yeah, there's not enough crunch. I like a crunch on my potato.
Oh, I got you.
But I do like a good mashed potato is really good.
Yeah, it's one of the things I learned from my mom, and I haven't done it for, I don't know, probably since college.
Mm-hmm.
Her mashed potatoes were my favorite, and we would get use out of them multiple days. So she would redo them in the skillet, and they get the little brown.
Oh, see, I would like that.
Oh,
yeah, I would like that a lot.
They were incredible, and so for a while that became my substitute for hash browns in my skillets.
Yeah.
I just would
take the
use
leftover mashed potatoes.
It would be the base.
Yeah,
it's incredible, and they get the nice little scab.
Natasha makes a really good. I like to call it a crust.
Sure.
Over a scab.
Whatever.
Because scab is a little gross. I do.
Talk to me like I'm 4.
I'm not. I'm just.
Oh my goodness.
I think
scab is a little gross.
I think when we're talking about food, scab is a gross term to use.
You're right. There's probably a significantly better word to use.
Yeah, I'm not a big fan of scabs in my food, but
crossing the lines to play a little football.
I wasn't trying to get political with unions over here, DB, but all right, whatever you want to go into today. DB here for unionization.
And then again,
Exactly.
But I get a little nervous on betting on my own teams, but I wouldn't bet against the 49ers tonight.
Lock it up.
That's what I'm saying.
12 gauge.
I
just said that.
What does that mean?
I don't know, like a shotgun.
What does that have to do with lock it up?
Lock it up like the 12, like a 12 gauge shotgun.
What are you locking up?
Because don't you lock up weapons?
I mean, you're supposed like in a little like a gun case.
Sure, lock it up.
Why'd it have to be a 12 gauge?
What do you want it to be? A Beretta?
Could have been any gun.
I only know like a handful that I've heard of in movies.
Like a Glock.
Yep, I know that. I know that. That's all they used to think minorities used to use.
Is Glocks.
Yes.
You got a Desert Eagle out there.
Don't know what
That's
that
a
is.
type of handgun.
Don't know what that
I
is.
believe it's the type the military uses. I think. I'm not really sure.
Not familiar.
That's one they use in the video games with the military, at least. I don't know.
AK.
AK?
Yep.
Like Andy Kendi?
Yes.
Yeah. Or Andrei Karolinko?
Deep cut.
Why
Karolinko?
Because he was AK-47. That was his nickname.
Didn't he have the different relationship?
Oh, yeah. It was open, I believe.
Once a year or something, like Christmas or?
I almost made a joke there that I'm not going to.
I'm pretty sure he was.
I think you're right.
Okay.
Yeah, I think Andrei Karolinko got hall passes.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that was the nature of his relationship. I thought you were going to say he had an odd relationship with, because he took the weird deal with the Nets, right?
Yes, he did.
When the Russian owner bought him.
Yes.
And so I thought you were going to say he had a weird.
By the way,
relationship.
what do you think he's doing?
I'm guessing he went back to the motherland.
Got back in the vodka distribution?
Maybe something, Sure. I think there was some favors on the back end of that Nets contract. Is all I mean. I don't know what they were exactly.
Got to speculate.
It is rumors and speculation. Nothing. I'm sure nothing untoward happened.
Oh man,
I'm sure of it. I would bet on that. I would bet that contract was definitely on the up and up.
Yeah, I think so too.
Karolinko was a good ball player, though.
Yeah, he was.
He was versatile.
Yes, he was.
He was a stat sheet filler.
Austin, low-key comedic Austin. It was open, I believe. Oh, he's making fun of us.
What happened?
Just an unhinged Ravi note. Yeah, like you are. Like I don't know what's wrong. It's just your delivery.
What do you mean?
It was funny. Just how you said it.
Which part?
It was open, I believe.
Oh.
But you were at the same time contemplating telling an inappropriate joke.
Well,
don't.
Yeah. The nature of his relationship and where he played basketball is funny to me.
Knock it off.
Just, just thought it was amusing. Any other games you're looking at tonight that you like?
Not at this particular juncture.
You're not loving any college hoops games tonight? You've been killing the college hoops.
I know. It's
Just
like stealing, basically.
Straight murdering.
There's not a lot of appealing games.
There's not. It's a little bit of a
outside
light.
of Iowa and Iowa State.
It's a little bit of a light Thursday. Not a ton going on. Although I am interested. I don't, man.
Virginia and Bethune-Cookman?
No. No. I am interested in
Evansville and Chattanooga?
No.
New Mexico State, Texas.
I am a big New Mexico State guy.
Why?
Not. I am interested in Iowa State. I want to get a closer look at them tonight.
See them guard and defend?
Yeah. I think they're – I don't know how I feel about where they're currently ranked.
Yeah. It's just not a great slate for college, so there's no sense in enforcing it.
You've been playing around with the NBA at all?
I would never.
Never? You never bet the NBA?
No.
I think it's really hard. I don't mess with the NBA either, but
It's
impossible.
Fixed.
Never, ever,
It's
ever.
not fixed.
It's fixed.
Oh my gosh. What are you doing?
I'm just telling you.
You're sitting here, you're turning into one of these like the Chiefs have it rigged for the NFL have it rigged for the Chiefs.
I don't believe that.
So you don't think the NFL is fixed, you think the NBA is fixed?
Yeah.
Why?
I've just seen it in my former life, like I would just do like anecdotal evidence of like, you'd be up 8, it's 7, and you can't inbounds the ball inexplicably the last 4 seconds of a game. The other team gets the ball on their end and they get a meaningless layup, or you dribble the clock out with more than the shot clock worth on the clock and it stays at the total. I've seen fouls down by more than 3. People foul with less than 2 seconds to go. For what? For what? Why would you?
You're throwing stuff at me
Why
now?
would you do such a thing? No, I don't. My buddy, we joke about the NBA all the time.
Some people are just dumb.
Sure.
Like,
or sometimes you have calls that made for jump balls that are, 80 feet away that you haven't seen called since the eighth grade. That was vintage Kerr. But you know what? I did actually listen to him. I listened to that whole press conference before he walked off. And he's had some tirades.
I like Steve Kerr. I'm a big Steve Kerr
he's your guy.
Yeah.
And it does.
I like him anyway.
It does make sense that the NFL is rigged.
The NFL
Chiefs win all the time.
That's just too hard to do.
Also, the Chiefs are
pretty good.
They're Midwest.
Yeah, they're just better than almost everybody else.
Chiefs are pretty good.
They're Midwest. They span both sides of the nation. Might as well. I mean, you're going to get all those
If
sales.
the NFL was fixed, why wouldn't their biggest markets be better? The Giants and Jets can't find a win to save their lives.
They're spreading it out.
Chicago's been bad for a long time.
Chicago's one of the most dysfunctional franchises in the league. And that's what I don't understand. Why have the Knicks been bad forever if the NBA's fixed?
Unless you just want people to keep taking money in Las Vegas because their team is so bad.
We don't think the NBA would want the Knicks to be any better. They can't figure it out a single time. That's Bet On It, brought to you by Warhorse Sportsbook. Jacob Padilla coming up next. Wrapping up the show here on Hurrdat Sports Radio, AM 590, ESPN Omaha, ESPN Tri-Cities, KFOR in Lincoln. That's DB. I'm Ravi Lulla here on the Pillar Exterior stage. We're joined now by Jacob Padilla, our very own Hurrdat Sports correspondent. What's going on, JP?
Good morning, guys. I'm doing all right.
Young Jacob, how are we feeling this morning?
You seem awake, bright-eyed, bushy-tailed.
Well, your Suns have lost 3 in a row. That's worth sleeping on, isn't it?
Yeah, let's just wait till Katie gets back, and then we can talk about them.
They're better than the Lakers.
It's a low bar.
Wow. Hey,
one game without Kevin Durant.
Yeah.
One singular game.
So you want? Were you surprised? I saw a graphic yesterday, Jacob, for all the fun, making fun of Doc Rivers that I like to do, and of course he's on Ravi's favorite coach list.
Rightfully so.
Did you realize that when Dame Dollar and Giannis play, they are the highest scoring duo in basketball? 58-5 that pair goes for when they play together.
I mean, it makes sense. They were both, top 5 type scorers when they were on their own. And there isn't a whole lot of offense on that team with the current form of Chris Middleton. And so there are a lot of shots to go around on that team.
And now all of a sudden they've won 8 out of 10. And my prediction of Doc being home for Christmas will not come to fruition.
Yeah, it looked pretty rough early on. And we obviously have seen how the coaching change went there. But, I mean, pretty talented team there when you've got those two guys leading the way. It was understandable, like you could see why it wasn't necessarily working, but also the skill sets are there for them to figure it out, and it seems like it's starting to click a little bit at least.
Speaking of talented teams, I sent you guys the current odds yesterday at volleyball. Not surprised at all, are you, that Creighton is so highly thought of to come out of their region?
No, they're a tough one to cap. I mean, you look at it just like overall statistical performance. It's basically them and Pitt as the most well-rounded teams in the country. Like they're just up there, top 10, 15, top 5 in basically everything you look at. But obviously, they also played against the Big East, so it's hard to compare that against some of these other teams that played in a tougher conference. Although Creighton has performed and. Even if they haven't won, I mean, they took Nebraska and Louisville to 5. So they show they can hang with the best in the country. And it's just a really talented team, and Kirsten Broussard-Booth is a really good coach. So, yeah, that was certainly interesting that the odds favor them to that degree. Because I think we've seen what Penn State is capable of. And obviously they got Texas there as well. So. If they manage to come out of that, like you're beating basically two of maybe the 4 biggest volleyball brands in terms, like you toss in Nebraska and Stanford as maybe the other 2, and with Texas and Penn State. Like that would be quite an accomplishment for that program who hasn't been there before.
Okay, so we kind of left off just talking huge brands. Wisconsin. Which Wisconsin do you get? The healthier kind of middle of the season Wisconsin, where the lineup was starting to come together, or like kind of feeling their way along? We're still wondering about a freshman and her role. Like which are you closer to leaning towards?
Yeah, that is kind of the question you look at. Well, Nebraska handled them twice in the regular season, right? But especially that last time, and early on, they were still figuring themselves out. I think that if Wisconsin advances to Sunday, which I expect, it'll be a better version of Wisconsin, I think, than Nebraska's seen thus far. But at the same time, Nebraska has played them very well twice already, and I think Nebraska certainly has the edge in passing between those two, and I think that's been a big difference.
Well, Nebraska's tempo seemed to bother them too offensively.
Yeah, and they did a really good job of cracking down on Franklin and Schreck and really honing in on what Wisconsin was trying to do. And again, Nebraska isn't the most aggressive serving team, but they've had some stretches where they have served really well, including against Wisconsin. So that's going to be the key again. Is that is kind of the point of weakness for this team relative to what we've seen of Wisconsin in the past. And if they're not passing well, then it's really hard to put those hitters in good situations.
JP, let's switch gears to basketball here a little bit, and I'll start with Creighton. With the injury to Pop Isaacs, obviously the performance against UNLV, how much of that do you think was real and portable, and how much of it was sort of just a one-off against what did not look like a very good UNLV team?
Yeah, that's certainly something that we'll have to figure out moving forward. Like, I don't think it was a fluke. I don't think it's, like, not real. The portable question of it in terms of how consistent can you get it is the question.
Especially with, like, a Jemiah Neal.
Yeah. Well,
so not sure. Like,
yeah, he's capable of that. Like, but I mean, for Rob Anderson, he did something that nobody's done in regulation at the high major level since 2005, 2006 with a 19.99 and 4 blocks.
Mm-hmm.
So like that's the kind of impact he's capable of making. The question is, when he becomes more and more of a featured part of the scouting report, how successful can he be, especially with kind of the flaws in his game. But he is a guy that, I mean, he can do all those things, and he's going to need to be a playmaker for this team. And it was kind of interesting, I think, going back and looking at a lot of those assists. It wasn't necessarily him running a bunch of pick and rolls or whatever. A lot of that was just quick decisions where he swung the ball, he moved the ball where it needed to go within the flow of their offense.
Yeah, just making the right pass shots at the right time, right?
Yeah, exactly. And guys made shots. So that's a big difference too of what we saw early in the season.
Yeah,
you can't get an assist if guys don't knock down the shot. And we've been kind of like Jason Green knocking down 2 threes isn't necessarily something you're going to get every game. You talk about portable, but I think we believe that Green and Trout were capable of more than we saw early in the season. And it doesn't have to be one or both of those guys every single game, but just a combination of those role players stepping up. Like that has to be the case for Creighton, even more so moving forward now, because you can only ask so much of Stephen Ashworth, like more than you're already getting out of him.
That more than 32.4 minutes a game is going to get you.
Yeah. Yeah. And we know how teams are defending Ryan Kalkbrenner, and that's not necessarily something that you can force to maybe make up for the Isaacs. Like it's going to have to be a focus. You have to play through them as much as you can, but it's going to be on those other guys that because Kalkbrenner's going to continue to see double teams and defenses focus on him. It's going to come down to those guys, McAndrew and Trout and guys like that knocking down shots, and then Jemiah Neal making good decisions with the ball in his hand.
I got to split this last 3 minutes with you. I want to get to Nebraska, but real quick, who's in jeopardy, if anybody, of having to so you don't panic and use a blow a red shirt? Is it probably Davis, or is there a candidate for that for Creighton?
No, what we've seen so far is what you're going to get. There's no until the Zugic situation gets resolved. It is going to be probably Mason Miller starting. Maybe we could see some slight adjustments, like if there's a matchup where they want to play 3 guards against maybe a smaller team, that you could see Ty Davis or Shane Thompson or somebody like that slide into that lineup there and push Neal back to the 3. But I think that's what we're going to see moving forward until the Zugic situation is solved.
A team coming off a very different experience in their last game, Nebraska basketball. What are you concerned about coming off of that Michigan State game versus what do you think was kind of fluky, kind of in the other direction from Creighton?
Yeah, it's weird. I mean, Hoiberg was really disappointed just in the team's preparation and effort and all that going into the week, which Michigan State is a team that smacked them pretty handily in East Lansing last year as well, I believe. So you would have figured like that game maybe had their attention last year too. So I don't think that's who Nebraska is, but also their margin for error is very slim. We saw how well they executed against Creighton. If they don't execute that well, then there's a lot of weaknesses, a lot of holes that teams can attack. And then also they were just so putrid offensively. So I think it's more of a one-off than that's who Nebraska is. But it's also what Nebraska is capable of being if they don't lock in and prepare and play the way they need to with this roster.
Indiana can play with length. Do you like the matchup?
Indiana's a weird team.
Very much
so. To be a weird team. I don't really know what to make of them. Obviously, they got a lot of size, and Nebraska's gonna have to deal with that. But
they don't
I think
shoot
the key
it as
is
well.
Miles Rice. They can't let him get going like that. He hasn't been great so far this season. Obviously, coming over from Washington State, like they need him to be the key to that team. And so it's going to be Nebraska's going to have to be able to guard in the backcourt and make life difficult for him, and then hold their own on the glass and not let Indiana kind of bludgeon them inside.
That's Jacob Padilla, Hurrdat Sports. Jacob, we appreciate it as always. We'll talk to you again soon.
All right, sounds good, guys.
That's Jacob Padilla, our guy. You'll be talking to him, I'm sure. Now, are you still doing?
Yeah, we're going to do preps.
You're going to do. So we'll hear some high school basketball takes from you and JP.
We'll do preps. I like basketball.
In the very near future.
I like high school.
I'm stunned to hear this. That's DB. I'm Ravi Lulla. More Hurrdat Sports Radio tomorrow.